Let's do the damn thing.
Oh, you know what time it is. It's time to take it to the Birdland. It's about to go down. Hope you all ready. Yeah, let's go. Come and roll with me to the Birdland. Friends got to giving you the word, man. Any other BS is absurd, man. Sports talking, they give it to you firsthand. They can talk Terps, they can talk O's. Yeah, they both lit. That's how it goes. Baltimore squad, Ravens and Poe. Better tune in. Here gonna show. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS. Birdland, Birdland, Birdland. BS.
It's all about that BS, baby, going into the new year.
Happy New Year, everybody.
What's up, peeps? Drew, Scott, James, Joe Carlozo in the house. We appreciate you all tuning in with us tonight. Fred and Ryan, obviously not here tonight. They are up in New York, headed up to the Pinstripe Bowl this week to see the Terps take on Virginia Tech. So we'll talk about that here in just a short little bit. First of all, today, obviously, December 28th, we are 4 sleeps away, guys, from the new year. Happy holidays, happy new year to all of you BSers out there, all your families. We want to say thank you again for another fun year of running with this show. This is 4 years in the books now that we've been doing Birdland BS. It's all thanks to your support, and the reason that we really do this thing. You guys have given us tons of feedback, tons of love throughout the years. We always appreciate it. It's really been a fun ride, and we hope it's many more years to come. And I know that a few people have messaged me and Fred asking us about donations and wanting to contribute to the show. So real quick, if you guys want to do that, there's a link down there. It's called bio.link/BirdlandBS. Takes you right to our website, social media pages. You can get yourself some Birdland BS gear from there, and then there is a donation button. So we appreciate that and appreciate everything that you guys give. It all goes right back into the show. Well, the Ravens, they lost their 4th straight, guys.
That they did.
It's not surprising, though, because of the injuries and the COVID list that continued to pile up before the game last week.
Yeah, it's one thing after another. When the dominoes keep falling,
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
All right. So I was gonna say, well, look, I mean, you just got to put it in. You got to put it in the rearview mirror now, and you got another tall order coming in the Los Angeles Rams. So they come back to the bank and they take on the Rams. Look, the playoff hunt's still there. I mean, they need some things to happen, but it's not over yet.
Yeah, it's not over. It's not over till we say it's over, until the fat lady sings, so to speak. But no major news in show until this week, as we said. And like we said, Fred and Ryan, they're up in New York City for the Pinstripe Bowl. We're going to give you our predictions in the 2-minute warning on that. Hope the guys can. I think they're at a comedy club right now.
Yeah, they're smoozing it up.
They might. I don't know what time the comedy started. Don't know how funny it is, but we'll find out when they try to hopefully call in a little bit later in the show and give their takes. I know that Fred was hoping to be able to call in, so we'll hopefully talk to them. And this week's rundown, we got a hodgepodge, huh?
God, talk about it. So we're gonna have to. We bring up COVID and how it's ravaging sports and what we could foresee them bringing, coming in the coming weeks. There's a new HBO Lakers show that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
It's kind of that. It's satire, but
we're going to talk about Magic Johnson's take on
history. Harden's flagrant foul. If you saw that, Joe Montana has a docuseries coming out. And are we reading this right? Does this guy stay in the news forever? Jake Paul again in our rundown. Yeah, he's in it again. Stay tuned.
All right. But before we get the show started,
let's get
Drew,
the sea
why don't
legs
you
out.
give us a shout out to our sponsor, man?
First time reading the new one. Let's see how I do with this one. See if I can mess it up badly. All right, remember that team over at MD Crash they've been telling you about for the last 2-3 years? Well, they've expanded. Yep, more lawyers and handling a much broader spectrum of cases now. Still handling all of your auto accidents and injuries at work. But now the team at Barris, Hassan, and Herndon can help you with family law issues, with divorce, custody, and child support, etc. And if you're a murderer or you're run-of-the-mill traffic stop, all the time, they're your guys too. You can call or text at 667-220-6500 anytime for any of your needs. So save this number if you haven't yet. Update that MD Crash number. That number again, 667-220-6500. Call or text anytime to get the team at Bowers, Hassan, Herndon on the case for you. a lot more to say now.
It is a lot more to say, but you got the murder in there. That's what matters.
Got the murder, and that's the only thing, literally the only thing we care about.
All right, well, guys, before we actually get into it, I know I've seen it in the chat room. Breaking news.
Yeah, we found out
we literally
right
found out
before
about
we
10
had the
minutes ago. Unfortunately, the NFL has given word that the one and only John Madden has passed away unexpectedly at the age of 85.
Boom.
Yeah, I mean, this guy, not only do we know him for all of the stuff that he did,
he
on
showed
the
up in
field
Little Giants,
with
man.
right on the field with the Raiders, but all the catchphrases,
Boom, 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 boom.
all the catchphrases that were there from him, it was everything.
Am I wrong? Maybe I'm wrong. Not to say he invented it, but that whole the yellow line drawing on the prompt, he was the first one.
Yeah, he was one of the first to do it. I mean, that just shows you what he brought to the sport, what he brought to the NFL, as a whole. When you talk about what he meant to this sorry, getting something that comes up there. When you talk about what he's brought to the NFL, to the game as a whole, obviously, like we said, the head coach of the Raiders, I remember him. We all play a game that's named after him.
No, there's a generation that only knows Madden from playing the video game. And
exactly.
That's sad.
It is sad. It is sad. But just memories, things that kind of flood to mind, with some of the calls, some of the crazy calls that he had. I mean, there are so many. The good old.
He not only rambled, but he rumbled and stumbled.
The isms where it was not as thick as Yogi Berra, but it was just those what did you just say?
Yeah, he did leave you scratching your head sometimes, but for us, the Buckisms, with the Orioles, right? It was the Maddenisms, but they worked. That was the crazy thing, was they all
No one else
worked.
could pull that off.
He was over here, and then he was here, and then he was over here. Where did he come from? All that stuff. The movie appearances. You talked about Little Giants. I believe he also made an appearance in. I think it was The Longest Yard.
He was a major part of the replacements with
the replacements. That was the other one.
They called all the games, and
so
it was pretty cool.
Just a lot of memories there. James Drew. I'm used to Drew being over there. James Joe. Any memories for either of you? James, we'll start with you.
Like I said earlier, it was staying up late when I was supposed to be in bed just to watch him cover Monday Night Football, because he could tell it without looking at the picture. As much as he would go all crazy and all, it was a good time. I got in trouble many times going down the steps just to watch it, but it was great.
All right, Joe.
I think for me, I can't remember when he retired, but as a kid, you watched him and he was larger than life of the game, and then you played the game, and that's how you knew him. So I think for me, you didn't realize how great of a coach he was or a broadcaster, but then after you figured that out.
Yeah.
So it's just a loss for everybody.
Yeah, one of my not an exact moment, but it was a game that always sticks in my mind with him was the game that Brett Favre played against the Raiders after his father had passed.
Oh,
the day before, 2 days before, and played through it. And it's just you knew Madden called so many of Packers games over the years. So it was for Favre to go out there and have the performance he did, and then have that guy that as the backdrop and the storyteller along with this, that one always sticks in my mind.
Yeah, it definitely stands out there. And again, sad news for those of you just joining us just before the show. Within the past hour, the breaking news all across the Twitterverse, all across social media, and the news. John Madden has passed away at the age of 85, unexpectedly. So yeah, rip John Madden. Everybody's chiming in there. Yeah, we unfortunately have to kind of break the news to some people. It really stinks. For what he meant for the game in the NFL, but I know he is going to be missed, and our thoughts are with the NFL, his family, his friends. I know he has some children, so just crazy to hear, and especially after that documentary kind of coming out.
Probably go see some teams this week, do some stuff.
The NFL needs to do something. They need to do something on Thursday night, and then the entire weekend needs to be dedicated to John Madden.
There's no Thursday night game.
There's no Thursday.
Oh, that's right. There is no Thursday night game. So then definitely on the Sunday night game, the Sunday night and Monday night games need to have that. So we'll kind of see what they do from there. But all right, let's kind of move to the Ravens and get off the sad news. Did you say go to the sadder news? Is that what you just said? Yeah. Oh, geez. This is going to be a long show. So let's start with actually the good news, and that's some of the guys that are in the background of the image up here. As last week we learned the Pro Bowl announcement of 5 Ravens making it, all offensive players. All offensive players. So the first one, let's start with the no-doubter, Mark Andrews.
Yeah.
We're going to get into some of his stats from the past few weeks.
I mean, you can make the argument of who the best tight end in the league is, and you can be, for us, it could be Purple Kool-Aid is what it is. But he's at least put himself up there to go with Kelsey and Kittle.
Oh, 100%.
Because I know, and mainly from a fantasy football standpoint, going into the year, if you're a fantasy football player, you heard Kelsey, Kittle, Waller, and then maybe Andrews and Pitts and this guy, and then it was like after those 3, it's pretty much like it's a drop off the cliff. And Mark Andrews changed that narrative right there.
Yeah, it's one of those things to me. With the numbers that he has put up this year, he is by far the biggest threat of tight end this year from everything that we've seen, and especially over the past few weeks. We're going to get into that a little bit and some of the stats that are coming out the past few weeks for him. But he's just solidifying what he's been able to do, even despite some of the people that are chirping about the goal line catches and stuff like that. Look, everywhere else he's put up and played well. Travis Kelce's had some drops. George Kittle's had some drops.
I was critical of not catching the 2-point conversion, but I'm not gonna. That was a 1-week thing for me. Like I'm not gonna keep harping on that shit. After you did what you did this year, to me, when Mark Andrews, any of the negative stuff anyone wants to project on him, at least for now, sorry, that's in the rear view because you're proving the doubters wrong. You're proving worth the money.
And then there's good old Pat Ricard. There's not many fullbacks in the league, so but he's definitely at the top of the list. It's him and Juszczyk basically. That's the list. One is a former Raven, one is a Raven. We know how to grow them.
What we do.
Justin Tucker. This was kind of a dub, but there's some people that are looking at it.
No slouch.
McPherson could have made the cut here. McPherson has been solid from 50 plus this year. I think what solidifies it for Tucker was you can't have a guy break the longest record.
Yeah, unless that was his only field goal. Yeah,
the longest record, still the most accurate kicker in the NFL, and I know he hasn't been getting kicks, James. I know he hasn't been getting the kicks, but he's still accurate as hell. He deserved it. He got it. It's there, but I get the McPherson argument.
Yeah.
The one of the controversies. Actually, we'll go with the non-controversy first. Devin Duvernay. Some were a little surprised. He makes it as a special teams guy, and this is a guy that's averaging top of the league, 15 plus yards.
Yeah, and that's what it is. So I mean, you can have your punt returns for touchdowns, but it's not. It's kind of like the kickoffs and punt returns aren't as prevalent as we used to have. So it's like you maybe have like 5 to 10 a year on, but
that's the thing
but so it's what you do outside of just running that back. If you keep sitting there consistently giving your team a good field position, it isn't always necessary you have to have that 95-yard touchdown.
Exactly. I mean, this is a guy that he's averaging 13 to 15 plus on all of his returns. That's why he makes it as a return specialist into the Pro Bowl. So congrats to Devin Duvernay there. Very well deserved this year. The one big controversy that's coming out is Lamar Jackson. Yeah. Controversy over him making it over Allen and Burrow with the way that both of these guys have been playing in the AFC. Some people are saying Mahomes at the beginning of the year we were saying was a shell of himself. At least with the way that things were working out there. They
had that little muddled area.
Yeah. So, but Lamar makes it. Now, here's the kicker for anybody that wants to sit here and go, I don't get how Lamar makes it. I don't get how he makes it. He made it because of the vote of the coaches and the players. That tells you something, people. When the guys that he's playing against go, yeah, this is the guy. This is the guy who was everybody scheming against going into the year. It was him. Has some of it been successful? Maybe. Has some of it been unsuccessful? Yeah, because he's been able to make his team it's been a tattered team.
Yeah.
He's been able to put them in position and won 8 games doing it.
Yeah, for me, I mean, personally, I don't. Us as fans, I really don't see the point in us harping on Pro Bowls anymore. Okay, because look at it. Look, look. Okay, so I'm. Who's the other guy with Mahomes and Lamar? Why am I drawing a blank on who the other guy was?
Allen was up in the top of the mix.
But I'm saying it was Mahomes, Lamar, and somebody else that got it, not Allen or Burrow. Was it Herbert? Herbert.
So yeah.
Okay, so let's just look at it right there. I mean, if the Chiefs go to the Super Bowl, Mahomes ain't in it. If the Ravens go to the Super Bowl, Lamar's not in it. Herb's, I mean, so one, you already have the Pro Bowl taking away possibility of players that aren't going to play in it because they're in the Super Bowl. And two, by the time you get to that point in the season, half these guys are dropping out anyway. So those 3 quarterbacks, in one way or another, could be dropped out, and Allen, Burrow and fucking someone else could be going instead. And there'd be 5 different receivers. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, I think as fans, you really can't harp on the Pro Bowl for me anymore because it really does come down to all pro for me.
I agree with you. Take the Pro Bowl as a nice nod, especially when it comes.
It is a good nod. I'm not saying it's completely, but it's just.
But it shows it's for the guys that are noticed.
The roster gets expanded. It's the same thing as the MLB All-Star game. It gets expanded so much because there's just reasons why guys that were nominated or whatnot.
Exactly. So, all right. So let's kind of move.
For me, it should be Josh Allen.
Let's kind of move through. We learned Saturday. So let's actually get into the game itself, right? We learned on Saturday that Tyler Huntley had been moved over to the reserve COVID list.
Of course.
Started to hit again. In steps Josh Johnson, who's been with the team 10 days at that point, and has been with a total of 20 different teams through 3 different leagues.
Second time with the Ravens.
Yeah, second time with the Ravens.
Completely forgot about the other time, too.
He was with the Ravens back in 2017. They signed him in like May, and we released him in September. It was simple as that. He wasn't making the squad. It wasn't happening. Somebody else picked him up. Well, this is a guy who's been with the AFL, the XFL, right? And he's been with the NFL. He's been with 8 different teams. I think we said he's been in like 30-some games. 39 games, I think, was what we were looking at across those 8 seasons, but he's also only really started in 9 games. Yeah. So, take it for what it is. It's a small sample size.
I want to say, Chuck, they didn't really drop McSorley. I mean, they put him on the practice squad. You run that risk of someone taking him, and Arizona took him. It is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, you have to have somebody on the practice squad, and I think McSorley on the practice squad was better than Kenji Bahar on the practice squad.
Yeah.
Which that was another piece of news that dropped today. We'll get into that. Kenji Bahar being released, but ultimately, Josh Johnson steps in and ultimately has a serviceable game at this point, considering all the injuries. Now let's go over those injuries going into the game. Total of 32 players were either on IR or the COVID list. Saturday and Friday, we learned Lamar, Devin Duvernay, Pat Ricard, Dalen Hayes, Ben Powers, Tyree Phillips, all were inactive for this game. Pat Ricard was the biggest one.
Yeah, and you hit the nail on the head. And a guy we talked about him being a Pro Bowler, and that's what's been missing his last couple of weeks.
So that one hurt. This secondary, demolished. So let's look at the corners, right? Marlon Humphrey, IR. Marcus Peters, IR all year. Anthony Averett, he's playing.
Look, and I've really enjoyed his play, but when
he goes down, he takes that knee.
The rib. That's it. They said he cracked his rib too.
Yeah,
so
he fractured the rib.
I don't think he's playing this week.
They said they're going to take it day to day.
We'll see.
They may wrap it up and see what he can do. You got to figure something out because you have those guys out. You got Tavon Young who's out. Now, Jimmy Smith was out for this game. He has been activated. We're going to talk about that in a minute. Chris Westry was out for this game. Kevon Seymour played in this game. Robert Jackson played in this game. You're probably asking yourself who? Exactly. All right. Khalil Dorsey, IR. Iman Marshall, IR. Mazzy Wilkins. Yeah.
Who?
Exactly. So it just goes to show you this secondary was depleted coming into this game. And then you go ahead and you lose Averett. So a lot going on with this game and what winds up happening. You know, they activate Sammy Watkins from COVID. Dalen Hayes comes off the IR this week. They brought up Kenji Bahar, Robert Jackson, Tony Jefferson.
Nothing great, but that sack he had was really good. He at least made his presence felt.
For who?
Tony Jefferson.
For Tony Jefferson. Okay, yeah. Then you had Gerard Jones-Smith. You had Isaiah Mack, another guy that got a sack in this game. You had Khalil McKenzie and Jordan Richards, Joe Thomas, Daryl Worley, who they signed to the practice squad and then activated him almost immediately.
Yeah.
And Tony Poljan, right? The guy that I had said at the beginning of the year, I was hoping to see more out of him during training camp. He gets activated from the practice squad for this game. We saw Calais struggling with his hamstring. He played, but not nearly as many snaps as we usually see him play. We see Broderick Washington really have to fill in there a lot. That's where Mack had to fill in a little bit. So a lot going into this game that really winds up hurting them. But with all of that being said, especially with the secondary, we're going to get into defense in a little bit. The offense had some shining pieces here in this game. One of the things, and credit to Bobby Trossett, who actually, from WBAL, who actually asked Harbs about this. Talking about the receivers in this game, these young receivers that were thrusted into this. Bobby happened to notice, and I went back and looked. He called out the fact that these young receivers, they would get first downs. They were handing the ball to the ref and moving on. None of that first down. None of that.
Bro, like, that is a freaking pandemic now. Like, not probably a bad choice of the word. But I don't know if you saw highlights from the Panthers Tampa game. They were already losing 36-9 late in the fourth quarter, and the Robbie Anderson's catching first downs and celebrating. Dog, you're losing 36-9.
Yeah.
Like, I even saw and it was really close. I didn't see it blow up on the internet like it kind of did with Chase Claypool. But I was watching Red Zone when the Rams and Vikings game was getting towards the end. The Vikings are down 10, and it's like about 40 seconds left. Justin Jefferson caught a pass on like the 25. And it looked like he was doing the whole, like, drop the football. Like, dude, wait, you got to hurry up and score. What are you people doing? The Ravens, we're not seeing that from the Ravens wire.
Yeah, and that was good, especially out of the youth, the young youthful ones.
Which is good to see, because I'd rather not have that black eye from people making fun of our players.
I mean, you got guys like Prochet that steps up in this game. Yeah. Prochet has 7 receptions for 76 yards in this game. Really looked good. And Harbs agreed. He was very happy with how these young guys were doing it, especially early when they had the fast-paced offense, right? You were doing the 2-minute type drill. It was working. These guys were getting the receptions, getting the ball down the field and charging down the field. And one guy that was huge in this game, and we can't, it's not just been this game. It's Mark Andrews, guys, right? Mark Andrews is clearly the best tight end in the NFL right now.
Ravens MVP for me.
100%.
So
there you go.
Game ball to
go
that
ahead.
man.
I'll let you go off on him. Go ahead.
Guy. So, I mean, he had another 100-yard game with a touchdown, but on the season, 93 receptions. That's 10 more than all other tight ends. Yeah, a guy like Kittle's had injuries, but it is what it is. That still happens. So he's at 1,187 yards receiving. That's 121 more than all other tight ends. Travis Kelce didn't play this week. 9 touchdown catches. That's tied for all tight ends. 69 first downs, which is like a huge stat for tight ends, because you're automatically almost
over the middle.
First downs. So that's 11 more than any other tight end. 18 catches of 20 more yards. How many times have we seen him catch the ball and run? I mean, that's been like the major cog of the last few weeks. 3 more than all tight ends. So he's leading all those categories I brought up. And it's, you know what I mean? He's, I'm going to mess the number up. 15. I think he's 15 yards away from setting the Ravens franchise record on the season.
Yeah, he's definitely up there. I mean, and look,
he earned that Pro Bowl.
And here's the thing. Per NFL and CBS, Andrews is the only tight end in NFL history with 10 plus receptions, 100 plus receiving yards, and a receiving TD in 3 straight games. The only tight end in history to ever do that. Right? You're talking about a guy that's having some of the best numbers of his career. I think the number in the last 3 games, he has a total of 376 yards.
The most,
right? It's crazy in the past 3 games. And that's most in the NFL out of all receivers.
And because you think guys like Kupp and all that, like, he seemed to automatically have a 100-yard game.
Exactly.
It's amazing to see.
It's just been working out. And then you have guys, Brown in this game. Brown gets 47 yards. I'm sorry, he got.
He had like 55, I think it was, but he's 47 away from having 1,000 yards. So, and the Ravens haven't had 2,001 yard, two 1,000-yard receivers since back in the inaugural season.
Yeah. So it's just been
it's
crazy.
It's still be cool to see, even if you're limping towards that. It's still cool.
Yeah,
to see.
and it's good to see this offense work. Now, the only thing that I would say is Greg Roman proved in this game to me that the problem is him.
Yeah, and it definitely like proves that like if he doesn't have a mobile quarterback, then like his scheme is just pointless almost. Like you don't have that crutch, you know what I mean? Like at least
when you don't have enough of a run game for him, it doesn't fully work out.
I mean it's nothing we haven't seen.
Yeah,
we haven't been talking about.
Look, this is Greg Roman kept this so vanilla and tried to throw so much against this offense. When you look at the numbers for the Ravens in this game, Josh Johnson had 40 passing attempts.
I don't want him having 40 passing attempts. I don't care how down they are. Like,
but we've talked. The biggest thing that we want, how are we all saying the easiest way to have this offense work is to have a balanced attack? Mm-hmm. Okay, 40 passing attempts, 16 rushing attempts.
Yeah.
You barely even let Devontae Freeman or Latavius Murray get the ball going. Freeman gets the TD, but they average 2.4, 2.8, yards per carry. Freeman had 6 carries. Murray had 5 carries. Josh Johnson had 5 carries. And the 4 of the 5 carries for him were scrambles.
But it just goes to show, like, you're sitting there, we let off the segment with talking about how the secondary was just depleted. The defense was just depleted. Well, your offense has to help you with that. So even though we've been having injuries on defense, at least the offense have been able, you know what I mean? Like you look at a game with like Huntley against Packers, if you would have been running, you know what I mean? Like you played it a little bit different than this week. If you would have been doing that, it would have stayed a blowout. You would never had a chance to make the comeback.
Yeah. What is your guys' take? I mean, did Greg Roman prove that he's the problem here?
Yes, because I didn't watch much of the game because I had family stuff. But the first drive I watched with my father-in-law, Eagles fan. I know he made me watch the Eagles. They went down the field and just kicked their ass. Literally kicked their ass. They should be running 2-minute drill all the time. They don't have the O-line, and they don't have the running backs. So Greg Roman definitely is a problem because he can't evolve.
All right, James?
There's nothing to talk about. We've been talking about it all year. It's like beating a dead horse. It's Roman has to go, and someone else has to go.
Yeah.
Like, it's time to clean the house. It's time to reshape this team, change it from being a defensive side to an offensive side and get the ball moving and get going in the right direction, hopefully towards another Super Bowl. I feel like we go 2 steps forward and then we go 10 steps back somehow. And I think this is what's going to it's going to clean the lockers at the end of the year.
So Nick says he lost all his running backs and a running QB. You can't change an offense in 1 week. Here's what I'm going to tell you, Nick. He did change the offense in 1 week because, A, he changed it for Huntley, which Huntley is very similar to Lamar. I get that. But Josh Johnson, you gave Devontae Freeman 6 shots. 6. That's it. 6 carries. 11 carries total between your 2 running backs. That's all you schemed in this game. It baffles me that you think you can win a game. Now, I get when you get down, we're going to see that number go up. But that number didn't change from the third quarter on.
Yeah, and I mean, really, once they start having like the 3 and outs and the short drives, that's when it got out of hand. Those first 2 or 3 drives, It wasn't out of hand yet. They were hanging in there. But once you just stay in that consistent mold, well, no shit, you're gonna lag behind if you're not on the field. It would have been nice to like just give the defense that chance to breathe when it's such a makeshift defense at this point.
Craig Zero saying Byron Leftwich for head coach.
No,
no, thank you.
No.
Rick,
I really. The Jacksonville better not do that.
Yeah, Rick says if front office don't get rid of Roman this offseason, then we know what to expect next year. Look, I think we're seeing that. I guess that's the hard part is because the offense did have some success in this game. And Josh Johnson, we talked about him earlier. Josh Johnson really looks serviceable in this, right? He really came in. The system really requires a mobile quarterback.
It does, and that's the problem. I mean, I think his highest for like a year was like 139. 39. Like, he's not a mobile quarterback.
But he comes
Never
in
was.
and he's 28 of 40, right? Which when you're asking a guy to pass the ball 40 times and he's scrambling out of the pocket, 28, I mean, it's not horrible. Now, I know that you can look at Joe Burrow's number, but Joe Burrow, for his what he had a somewhat of a running game, and we're going to get into that in a minute with Joe Mixon, but they were able to make the most out of what they had. Josh Johnson was serviceable. He was not the end-all, be-all. He's not going to be a guy that's there. I get that you didn't have, the normal personnel in this situation, but, you did have your running backs. You had your two running backs that have been getting you yardage.
You've been here for long enough.
You've had two running backs that have been getting you yardage for almost the entire season, 3/4 of the season, especially with Freeman, that he's been getting you yardage, and he's really been on the upswing here. But that's one of those things that you really got to give them the shot. Josh Johnson might have done better had they had more schemed runs. Go ahead, James.
At first, Scott, I'm going to actually agree with you on this time. If you look at the Saints-Miami game, all of them, you go from having Winston to Taysom Hill, two different style things.
Right.
But he adjusted. He adjusts to what he has to work with. With Brooks last night, he had to adjust on the thing. So I don't want to hear, he had the personality that, like, this guy, we think he always had like a running quarterback every time he coached a game. He had to because, it works the scheme. But what you have, even as your backups, you got to have schemes for them. So I don't want to hear he didn't have time, this and that. You should have stuff ready to go.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing when you look at this overall, again, Josh Johnson, more than serviceable through 2 TDs, did have the interception, only took 1 sack, right, which was good. Averaging 7.6 in the passing game. The run game just did really not get the chance to get going, nor did they get going. Josh Johnson really hurts the numbers here because he had 5 carries for 10 yards. But they, as a team, 16 carries, 39 yards. I get what people are saying that, you didn't have the personnel. But again, Freeman, prime example. He's been getting you yardage. You went with him. He got you the yardage that he got really in the first 2 quarters is where he got the yardage, and then you got away from it. Sometimes you got to chip away. You can't. I get when you get down, you're trying to throw to come back, right? Mm-hmm. But what is this team built around? It's built around the run game. If you can have a successful run game, you'll have a successful passing game. It's been working. It worked last week, right? It just didn't work this week.
So I have a question that a subject to bring up that just kind of popped in the head this whole time we've been talking, and it's something new for Roman. Since at this point, I know like 95% of the fan base is ready for Roman to go away, and maybe there's some select few other people in the organization. But at what point, as like say Ravens fans, do you stop directing that question at like each other or at the coaches, and you take that to the owner? What does the owner want? Because you know what I mean? In the past, going into that 2018 season, the way Bisciotti was talking in the offseason before 2018, it was like, man, like this. It
seemed like he was someone putting somebody's feet to the fire.
This is the season, man. Like without saying that directly, because obviously no one really is going to say that directly if they're any good of an owner or a coach. You know what I mean? But it happened in the past, whereas like you said, you started feeling that fire. The season was going along. You switched to Lamar. And then you have 2018, 2019, you have the run that we've been on. So at what point, like us as fans, stop sitting there thinking, all right, why is this guy still here, and blaming the coach for hiring him or, keeping him along, and you start blaming the owner for not thinking, all right, we need to make this change whether you like it or not. Maybe it's just a subject to broach. I don't know if I'm talking out of my ass even.
No, I think there's something to be said there when it's continued issue after issue that we're seeing, right, as fans. Now we're not privy to some of the information, so that's the downfall, right? Does Harbaugh have an influence on this, or is this all Roman? It really seems to be Roman because this is his MO, right? Yeah. No matter where he's been with 4 different teams, it's the same scheme everywhere he goes.
It doesn't leave to be a head coach either, so
right, he's not getting that anywhere. But look, here's the other side to this game. This game was not lost by our offense. This game was lost by our defense, but expectedly.
Like it's a shell. It's not
we talked about how many.
If this happened in week 2 or 3,
So
then
look,
you're sitting there saying, "What the fuck?"
Your
But,
defense,
I mean,
your defense was able to get some pressures on Joe Burrow, right? I know he took a few hits. One of the flags was a BS flag, as far as I'm concerned. But your three guys that got sacks, Isaiah Mack, Broderick Washington, Tony Jefferson, they're all backups.
yeah.
They're all guys that you brought up from the practice squad. What does that tell you, right? That's depth. That's
Yeah.
great.
Good coaching on that side
Good
of the football.
good coaching, right? Which we've said with Wink. The only thing that had me scratching my head with Wink in this game, did you guys notice the minimal blitzes, especially early in this game? Right? We talked about last week. Get the pressure on Joe Burrow, and you make him scramble. You'll force him to make errors.
Yeah.
We've seen it. It doesn't happen in this game. They stuck in zone coverage almost the entire first half of this game.
And Burrow said it. They were in zone coverage. It wasn't working. Even when they switched it, it wasn't working.
And that's the thing is that I'm sitting there thinking, like, I'm watching the game going, guys, something's got to change. You can't. The front was getting some pressure, but you have to put a little bit more pressure on Joe Burrow and just expect if your guy gets burned, great, you get burned.
They're doing it anyway.
Right, exactly.
Like they're throwing on you at will it anyway. If you at least got to get that pressure in there, where like, yeah, you might leave a corner on an island or something, but even when you were playing the defense that wasn't with pressure, these guys were still seemingly on a goddamn island or finding that open spot where it's just putting it right in that open spot.
You could have handled zone maybe a little bit more with Avert out there longer if he doesn't get injured. Maybe you can do it spot, but you got to have some pressure there. That we did see them, wind up sending Tony Jefferson on a safety blitz. He winds up getting in there, getting the sack. We saw Isaiah Mack climbing through the line, literally clawing his way through the line, getting to Joe Burrow, getting the sack. Broderick Washington on that front. Broderick Washington, I know that some people are high on him, but here's my issue: is that Broderick Washington, he's not the guy that you would want in there when Calais is out.
Yeah.
Calais being, not out there, you're putting Broderick in, and it creates an obvious hole most of the time. Now, again, he gets some pressure in this game, it works, but we feel it when we don't have the combination of Calais and Big Baby out there, we feel it as an offense. It really hurts. Now, they did when you talk about what they were, kind of gave up. Joe Mixon had 18 carries. Now, with the name Joe Mixon, usually 18 carries, we're probably talking 100-plus yards. They held him to 65 yards. They held him to an average of 3.6. His longest one was 19. He had 1 TD. Burrow did have to scramble. Again, the pressure with Burrow. He had to scramble twice up the middle. He found a hole, 11 yards total. Well, 12 of that was one play, right, where he runs up, he scrambles, gets the 12-yarders. The only other guy was Chris Evans. He gets 1 carry, 1 yard. You really were able to hold them in check. 21 carries for that offense, 77 yards.
Yeah,
that's holding in check.
That's what we've been seeing out of the defense as gripped as the secondary is. Like the up front, they're still teams don't really run on us. They haven't been running us for the best part of the season.
Yeah, but let's get
pretty sure they're still the top.
Let's get to the Band-Aid here, right? Wink. The story that was going into this game was Wink Martindale chopping off of the mouth. And we're going to say, I'm going to put that in air quotes, chopping off the mouth, because he says, look, the guy's in his truly his second year, right? He got injured in his first year. We injured him. He got injured, didn't finish the season, which I think is more of his motivation than the whole, running up the score. It's we took him out, so he wants to come in and prove that he could beat us. But he says, don't go putting the Hall of Fame jacket on this kid. I don't see what the problem was with that statement.
People say worse about Lamar.
Exactly. People have been saying and still say worse about Lamar.
You know what I mean? Like,
but at the same time,
it was non-factor to me what he said.
He comes in, he goes 37 of 46 for 525 yards. Now, here's the thing. You did this against what could arguably be a 4th-plus string secondary.
Yeah.
These guys are not even on. Some of them were not even on practice squads 2 weeks ago.
I mean, people could call it purple Kool-Aid all you want. Like it's exactly right. Yes, you did what you did earlier in the year, but even then, it's not like it is now. But it wasn't like you were at your full strength. You know what I mean? That was when you were already starting to kind of have those issues pop up among the whole team.
But credit,
and it ran away at the end. It was really like so many huge plays you just couldn't overcome.
Credit to
Burrow.
Burrow
for kicking our ass in both games, but it's, you know what I mean?
But credit to Burrow.
It's a tale of two different games.
You did find your open receivers. You did it well. T. Higgins absolutely mossed two guys, in that game. He had that great catch down there. I think it was like 40 plus yards, but good.
And that's the thing. Someone already said, I can't remember who, like, you're starting to see from this kid, he's already kind of run his mouth a little bit. First, let's get through a whole season healthy. First, let's do say that. Because yes, they've kept him upright more than people thought, because when the draft time, it was like, oh yeah, you're going to get another weapon in Chase, but you have a tackle sitting there, a couple tackles sitting there. Maybe you need to help keep this kid upright if he's going to be a franchise guy. One, so you got that. Two, you guys are only at 9 wins. You're not like sitting here at 12 wins and coasting.
Yeah, but
for being super healthy and avoiding this COVID as much as you guys have had, you've also blown a lot of games where like you guys should have already have this division underway. I don't expect them to win next week. So
I agree with you, but there is something to be said when you look at the stat line, right? When you look at the stat line, this was from Field Yates. Credit to Fred for sending this to us. Joe Burrow has thrown he's 25 years old. He's thrown for 4,165 yards this season. Joe Mixon has run for 1,159. Jamar Chase has 1,163 yards receiving. T. Higgins, 1,029 yards receiving. The Bengals are the first team in NFL history to have a 4,000-yard passer, a 1,000-yard rusher, and 2 1,000-yard receivers, all that are 25 or younger. Mixon's 25, Burrow's 25, Chase is 21, Higgins is 22.
They know how to draft.
They know how to. They've put themselves in a good position with this. So I get the piece of the confidence and everything, right? And some of that comes from what he did.
And I like him. I'm just.
I get it. I know
like
some
him.
people
are that he went to the Bagels. I like them.
I know some people are chiming in and saying like, he's a bastard. Da da da. Look,
I'm not that angry about getting our ass kicked. First and foremost, I'm not.
Okay.
Like we said it enough. We keep using it as a crutch at this point. That secondary is garbage. But the fact of the matter is, when it's getting to be like 4 minutes left, you're not gonna. You know what I mean? The time is so much against you that anything can happen. I know you were going to do that. I know you were going to do that. But there's no fucking reason for you to be like under 2 minutes and still be on that field ready to take a hit. And that's fine. That's fine if you want to do that, Bengals. But keep fucking doing that shit. And when a defensive tackle falls on this fucking kid, don't go blaming that guy saying it was a vicious hit. Because the kid didn't have to fucking be out there.
I know
I'm not the only one in the room.
We're going down this path. Let's go controversy, right? Because the controversy is them running up the score at the end of the game, winds up being 41-21. They're passing at the end of the game. It is what it is. It happened. You obviously have a huge problem with it. You don't like it.
So I don't like it. I don't also necessarily see it as running up the score, staying out there in the fourth quarter necessarily, with you saying still come up it. But the fact of the matter is, when like it's under 2 minutes, because the very next fucking play after you threw a ball down the field to put you over 500 yards, you took a knee. You could have been running that ball and running out the clock. You know what I mean?
Didn't the Ravens run the ball to try to get a record? Did you have a problem with that back then?
I thought it was stupid then too. They did it, and it happened. It is what it is. But at the same time, you have the game in hand. You were going for a record. So you're just lumping it on to put some chip on your shoulder. Like I said, that's fine. But if you do that again to someone, and a guy comes off the edge and hits him late and he tears his ACL again, I don't want to see shit on social media about, well, that guy's fucking dirty. No. The guy shouldn't have fucking been out there. I know I'm not the only one that could be chiming on this.
Look,
we talked about it a little bit, so I don't know if you guys want to chime in. But
I get it. I'm gonna put my 2 cents in here, and then we're gonna go to these guys. So here's my 2 cents. I'm a little bit like I get it. But at the same time, I don't have a problem with them. It's playing till the last minute. Now, I get what you're saying about 6 minutes, 2 minutes, whatever. But here's the deal: we have seen this team now. It is a different team than what it was when they did it. But how many times have we seen this team come back from a deficit? Right? We've seen them do it. Granted, it's been under a different quarterback situation, did a little bit different scheming. You had different players out there. I get it. But you have seen this team face adversity and overcome or almost overcome multiple times this season. This wasn't just, it just hasn't happened once or twice. It's happened all season long, right? So if I'm Cincinnati, I'm not letting off the gas because I can't let off the gas and let them back into the game, right? If I do that, I'm giving them the chance to do it. We've seen them come back from a 17-point deficit with 5 minutes left in a game.
I don't know what game
But not
you're
with 2
watching.
minutes left.
I don't know what game you're watching. I didn't see starters on defense at all. So even if Ravens came back.
Again, I get it's a
you're
different.
already through 400 yards already. Another 200 is not going to matter, dude.
I get it. It's a different set of personnel out there. I get that. My
There was
point
no
is
coming back.
It's a team mentality. We've come back
But here's-
again. We came back from
Now-
17
You're not coming
points
back.
down with
You're not
5 minutes
coming
left
back.
and made it a one-score
Now,
game.
I'll have
Win.
I'll have the extra rebuttal though.
Win.
When the game that Tucker kicked the onside kick, we were with 5 minutes
What
left in the
game was
game. We were
this?
down by 17.
What game was this?
Was that
What?
Pittsburgh?
The Pittsburgh game.
Okay, they're Pittsburgh.
But okay.
We were down by 17.
So-
Here we're down by 20. It's not much different.
Did you see what Joe Burrow was doing against the defense? I could have fucking
Which
threw for
is why
500
they
yards.
didn't. Which is why they didn't want to let off the gas and let the Ravens back in it. I get it.
What
I'm
we're just talking
saying.
about.
But they
Greg
should have been
Romans
running the ball.
can't give the ball to Freeman, doing this and that. We worry about him coming back. There was no
You can
coming
run
back.
the ball and you can still throw the ball and you can throw the ball for the first down marker and that's it. When you're fucking heaving it down the field, that's running up the score.
If there's an open man, you're throwing to an open man.
Okay, and I still
I
go to
get
my
it.
point. So my counter argument to you is, if it to me it's not to me it becomes running up the score when you have stuff after the game from Burrow talking about how they had a chip on the shoulder because they kicked their ass last year. When we were kicking your ass, we were running it down your throat, and Joe was out of the game in the fourth quarter. And the second time we kicked your ass, you weren't on the field because you tore your ACL because you were out there behind a shitty offensive line who's still just a little bit better.
So
that
you're
goes
mad
to
at him
my
because he
point.
felt like he had something to prove?
If you can't sit there and think it's called just, it ain't running up the score, we're just making sure we don't lose and have a comeback, and then sit there and say, we had a chip on the shoulder, so we were just pedal to the metal and sticking it to them. If it's a chip on your shoulder, then that's running up the score. That's not it. There's a difference between running up the score and making sure you hold up the lead, which is what you're saying. If you didn't have a chip on your shoulder, that'd be what you're saying. But if you got some made up chip on your shoulder because you've had a shitty team for this year, that up until this year, because I've been hearing calling Zach Taylor the fucking coach of the year because you didn't expect Cincinnati to do it and they might win the division by attrition. But the dude has fucking 7 wins before the year, and then all of a sudden, you know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of shit that doesn't bother me. You got some chip on your shoulder because you've been a shit organization since 2016. You know what I mean? Like, blame your fucking organization for letting it be so shitty that when you guys came in, you've been trying to build the shit. You have a chip on your shoulder that the fact that, like, you've been in the cellar, fine. But don't tell me that you're sitting there trying to protect the lead and then say you have a chip on your shoulder and that's why you were just exploiting the defense. That's fine that that's what you were doing. I get that. Grown men play. Someone said it. Grown men playing this game. It doesn't matter. It's still guys getting paid to play a game. So that's fine. But if you can't sit there and have it both ways, saying you're protecting a lead, but I have a chip on the shoulder. So basically, if you're saying you have a chip on your shoulder from getting your ass kicked the last couple of years, now you're saying you know what I mean?
So it sounds like you're problem,
bitter about it. And that's like I
your
said,
problem
that's
is more
fine.
so that they left him in than anything else.
Yes, because it's not. It's the way you were doing it. I
Let me
get
ask
your
you:
argument.
if they put their backup in, their backup does the same exact thing. Are you still pissed off?
No,
How is that any different?
because
if you're
it's
running
like
up
they
the score?
said, it's a fucking grown men playing the sport. It doesn't
All right.
matter if it's
Well,
shit. But that's what I'm saying. Keep doing that shit. But when he gets fucking knocked out, do not blame whatever DN for any fucking team that does it. I don't want to see anybody on fucking social media among fans. I don't want to see any coaches coming out saying we need to create some rule or bullshit. I don't want them coming out and say whoever fucking did it is a dirty player. If you're going to do that shit, you're leaving it up to get your ass hurt.
All I know is
that's dumb. That's fucking dumb. And that's why when we have a franchise quarterback and we run the ball as fucking good as we do, we beat the shit out of teams and Lamar comes out of the goddamn game.
Ran the ball as good as we did.
Doesn't matter.
All right, let's go to James. Let's
all
go to
I know
James. He's
is
itching
if
over there.
Macaulay Culkin's coming up to the bar and say, "Hey, I threw 500 plus yards against the Ravens," I'm not buying him a shot. He could buy his own fucking shot because I'm sorry. I do the same exact thing against my son and his friends. You know, we had grown men against the practice squad out there. I want to talk about, you know, they're doing all their stuff. They're grown men on both sides. No. You had fucking grown men on one side, and you have fucking retirement players on the other side. I don't want to hear it. If he got hurt, I wouldn't fucking care. I love the guy. I'm with Drew. That was a fucking bullshit-ass play in the fourth quarter. He should have been out. And I want to talk about...
I'll say it as an NFL fan. I like the guy enough that I don't want to see him get hurt. Like, you need the players like that to show life with the sport. They should not be getting put in positions where they can get fucked up. That's me. It's really not about that we lost. We were going to lose that game one way or the other.
They could have ran the ball for like 500 yards.
All right, Joe.
I'm with Drew. I can't believe I'm going to say this. Sorry, Scott.
You're in the wrong.
That's fine. I don't care.
You're in the wrong.
That's all right. The chat room has been agreeing with me, so I'm good with it.
No, we do care about the chat room, but all I can think of is like when Pat Mahomes goes out there and throws for 425, 30 yards or whatever it is, and they're up by 20 points, they put their backup in and he throws a couple, 20, 25 yards or whatever. No one cares. But Drew's totally right. It's unnecessary. Because what's going to happen?
So your problem is just like Drew's. Your problem is not that they went and were trying to score again or trying to run the score.
About that.
Your problem is actually different from what's been going on on Twitter and social media. Your problem is that they left him in for the benefit of him and the benefit of whatever they were trying to do versus saying, okay, let's protect our guy, let's protect that. So you have more of a problem with Stefanski than the actual play calling and the running up the score. Because Taylor. With Taylor running up the score versus it actually being a situation of the quarterback. Because you're both saying if the backup quarterback comes in here and lights it up and scores 2 more touchdowns, let's say this is a 48-21 game. You have no problem at that point because it's a backup.
I'm fine with it.
So then your problem is not
quarterback's not getting hurt.
So then to be clear, everybody in this room is in agreement. Our problem is not with running up the score as everybody out there is saying. Your problem is that they left him in. Those are 2 completely different situations, but they're leaving him in because, to Craig said,
Burrow under the 2 minutes was ridiculous.
Burrow should have come out when it's 2 minutes. But look, he says, I want that 500 yards.
That's what I'm saying. He wants to put that chip on his shoulder.
Because Wink also gave him the motivation of not putting the Hall of Fame jacket on him yet. He's not going to get the Hall of Fame for 500 yards, but he is going to be in a good situation, in a good light, if he's getting 500 yards out there. So it looks good. Go ahead, Joe.
Still, at all the games we watch in the NFL, at the end of the game, what do they frickin' do? If someone's up, they run the ball.
Or you got to run the ball.
So because somebody else decided not to do and go with the grain, you're upset? Like,
see, Scott, I feel that you're just hitting the fucking button because I know if this was Lamar in there, you'd be like,
going nuts.
What the fuck is he out there? What is he doing out there? He gets fucking hurt. I don't want to hear it. You'd be saying the same fucking thing about it, but it's on the opposite side. It, you be fucking pissed if Lamar was in that scenario. He's up. What happened if he got hurt?
So here's the deal. You're absolutely right. I did have a problem when we did it. When we did that before and we left him in. The difference is what I'm trying to make clear here is everybody's problem is not with the score being run up as media is blowing it up and social media blowing up. Oh, they're running up the score. They score a touchdown. That's not your issue. That's nobody in this room's issue. Everybody in this room's issue is that you left Burrow in. And with that, I do agree. I do not agree with the whole running up the score thing on the fact that this team has come
two different situations.
It's the same.
Because a backup quarterback's not going to be throwing for fucking bombs like that.
You don't know that.
I know that.
If a backup quarterback comes in and there's a guy wide open, you don't think he's going to throw it to him?
They're running the ball. They're handing it off because it's the fourth quarter. They got the big-ass fucking lead. They're taking time off the clock, and that's it. Game over.
Ravens go cover 0 at the end of the game, and there's a wide open T. Higgins. You're telling me that quarterback's not throwing?
And a defense isn't going to do that, though.
And T. Higgins not playing in the game.
Wink has played cover 0 at the end of the game before.
When they were trying.
I know, but
all I know is I'm going to add one more extra point, and it looks bad. Again, I know it sounds like I'm pissed off that they did it, and I'm really not. But it looks bad when you're doing that shit, and then you have the flip side. Mahomes didn't play the fourth quarter. They still beat the Steelers handedly. Dak Prescott, I mean, goddamn, did you see that Cowboys score? I felt so much better when I woke up the next day. Well, we didn't get our ass kicked that bad. They won. He played the first drive of the third quarter, and he was out.
I get it.
So when you got teams doing that shit, hey, that's
I get it.
third
But
and
how
fourth
many of
quarters.
those teams are doing it against a team that historically this season has been able to pull off comebacks, regardless of what their personnel is?
But with a not reigning MVP, with a unanimous MVP,
You did the same thing with Tyler Huntley, who's a backup quarterback
they were still
by
playing
definition.
the game, though.
Don't worry, Burrow's going to
I
get
get
his
it.
next year.
Look,
I'm
just
gonna
saying.
get a reminder next year.
Like I said, that better
And he
be.
very well may be, and
Don't
that's fine.
Don't let it become a thing. If someone knocks that motherfucker out again, I don't want to hear
Go
anybody.
ahead, Joe. You
up
get
in
the
arms
last statement before we move on.
I think the real problem is that in social media, you went on ESPN or whatever thing you watched, they glorify Burrow for 525 yards, and he was going against fourth or fifth string guys. To me,
That's what we're talking
to me,
about.
that's bullshit.
Practice squad
That's
people.
my problem with that.
Yeah. All right. Moving along, let's kind of take a look at what we've got with the remaining schedule. Obviously, when we started, we talked about this a week after week 11. We said that the team was 7-3. You know, realistic goal was a 4-3 run in order to get to the playoffs and get to 11-6. We're now 1-3 in that category, so we are now 8-6 in the league. We've taken division loss after division loss after division loss. Our only win was against the Browns in week 12. You have the Rams coming into town this coming week. And then you got the Steelers, which is the division game that's at the end of the year. That could be the game of whether somebody gets in or not. You know, there's the potential on that. But when we look at this, we got these last two games. Let's start with the Rams. The Rams are coming to the bank this week, 11-4. Right, the game gets flexed from 4:25 to a 1 o'clock game.
Probably helps a little bit.
Helps
for
in the
us.
favor them coming cross country. I think now they changed their flight plan.
Yeah,
I assume
well,
they're
I'm
gonna,
sure they would have. Yeah.
I'm assuming they're going to be coming in either Friday afternoon, maybe even Friday evening. Have a team meeting practice on Sunday. We'll see what happens.
Just do the exact opposite of your LA counterparts and don't come in the night before.
Yeah, exactly. You could come in. You can come in on Saturday night. I'll be good with that. Come in, make sure your flight gets in at 10 o'clock. Make it work. But yeah, the game being flexed out. The Rams, surprisingly, with all the things going on, and this is the only reason I think it's as low as it is, with all the things going on with the Ravens, with the question marks of who's going to be the quarterback, who's coming off the COVID list, who's going to be healthy. Is Anthony Averett going to play? Is Jimmy Smith going to be fully healthy in this game? The Rams are only favored by 3.5 in this game. So when you look at this, there's a lot going on. We talk about Lamar and quarterback situation. When asked yesterday about it, Harb said, we'll see as we get closer to Wednesday, which is a giant question mark,
Yeah,
right?
Even Wednesday. I mean, you really don't know until Friday.
Exactly. But you have some things that happen this week, right? You have Kenji Bahar, who actually winds up going they released Kenji Bahar from the practice squad. You get back Chris Westry. He was activated off the COVID reserve. But you place Tyus Bowser. Huge
Yeah.
hole there now.
No, I mean, you still play that game where he could show up, off of COVID.
He could. He was placed on the reserve COVID list, but I believe he was one of the ones that tested positive. So now he has to have two negative tests in order to come back that are, I think, 48 hours apart from each other. So he can test. He tested yesterday. He can test on Wednesday. And if that comes back negative, as long as he tests on Thursday at that point, I think he's good. I believe that's the protocol. So hopefully, cross our fingers, he's there. Defensive back Dardarius Washington, also on the COVID reserve, another guy that's a practice squad guy that's been floated up and down at times as just a depth piece. So all those different moves happening, it's going to be interesting. When I look at this, the first thing you have to do is you got to find a way to put pressure on Matt Stafford. Mm-hmm. You have to find that way. We need Calais Campbell healthy in this game. You need him healthy. You need to see a way really getting back to what we saw him earlier this year. I think teams have schemed against him a little bit better and been able to play and hold him back at times. But in that case, you need Patrick Queen to go help him cover and get that pressure.
Yeah.
Patrick Queen has been playing really well, been all over the field, been tackling well, much better since they move him to middle linebacker or to weak side linebacker over middle linebacker. It's worked keep him there, let him do it. But hopefully this defensive front can stay healthy and kind of, getting a Jimmy Smith back, seeing Kenan Averett play some snaps, at least to help you out and give you a little bit of a depth piece. If somebody goes down, it's a last-minute decision, last-minute situation. There's a lot of different factors in this game. We're not going to get into predictions just yet, but is there anything that you're looking at when you're looking at this game going, we need to be able to do this, this, and this in order to be competitive in this game?
I will say we already said it with the running the ball, because the Rams, I think you think of Donald and Ramsey, and you think of this defense, and you think top 5 defense type of thing. But that's not necessarily the case. You're like, yeah, you still have those studs. So, Ramsey's still one of the best corners in the league, and Donald's still goddamn Donald. But you can run on them. Madison had a good game against them. Like, it's to me, if anything, like if you stick to the run, you get that run back in there, and it works, then stick with it. And try to get that time of possession on your side, because we said that when things were gravy for the Ravens, time of possession. If you're leading the time of possession, for us as fans, we feel much more comfortable in their chances if they're competitive in that time of possession game. But if it's another issue where you're just lagging behind that time of possession, it's gonna be another long day.
All right, Joe, where do you see this game? Like, what do we need to do to make this game a competitive game? Because on paper, it doesn't look to be right now.
I really think they got to bring the blitzes. Blitz them all day. Because their corners can't cover, as we know, and they got to get pressure on Matt Stafford. I would really love to see them use the third-string running back. Do we even have one anymore? Because he never gets a carry.
I don't know. I stopped talking about him.
I know, but Freeman and Murray just aren't getting the job done. Give it to somebody else.
I would disagree with that. Freeman's
been serviceable, but
Freeman's been more than serviceable.
It's not pretty, but they do the dirty work when it comes to running a lot of time.
Up until last week, Freeman was averaging 3.6 yards per carry. That's what you need out of a running back. Your bell cow running back needs 3+ at the minimum to put you in position on 3rd and 1. That's what he's doing. The problem is you have to scheme him and give him the chance to run the ball. I don't know if maybe they're pulling it away because of health or whatever it may be. Murray, at times, has been so much more up and down this season. I haven't liked it, but it's one of those things I think when you look at it, it's got to come down to, in that aspect, you got to give Freeman the chance to run the ball. Yes, I know last week didn't look great, but you got to give him the chance. James, where are you at in this game? What do we need to do to win?
Hopefully we can go to church early and do a lot of praying.
You're just praying. That's all you're doing.
Where's the button, Scott? Hit the button. We need it back.
Right.
It's gonna be.
I think it's in here somewhere.
It's gonna be ugly. There's nothing that they could.
Are we praying to wink? We need a defensive help.
Be a fucking miracle.
Dad's not here, so we can hit that button.
Yeah, right.
Like I said, this game could go ugly, or it could be like a close game because Matthew Stafford hasn't looked great in the last couple of games. So I don't know.
Chuck Summers agrees. He says James being real.
I'm just keeping 100. Keep it 100.
Keeping it 100. All right. All right. All right, James, it is time for our social media shout out presented by Liquor Stop. Who do we got out there? Who's been chiming in?
Well,
any good comments?
Everybody's been chiming in. I was a little worried because, we're Fred. I
see a lot of that this time around.
They're liking you now, Drew. They're liking you.
Those first couple
great.
times.
Chuck Summer was number 1 tonight. Thank you, Chuck, for you've been slacking a little bit.
Chuck back in the saddle.
I know you must have been a little busy for the holidays. We'll leave it like that. And then we have Joe, Dimitri, Brandon Kamal, Craig Zero, Joshua, Jacob Paul, Nick Short, Henry, Jack, Dwayne, Garnett, Steve M, Chris, Abdu, Tony, Rick, Flock Nation, and David. All great comments coming in. Keep it coming. We love it. We just know, like I said, this is going to be 0-2 for the end of the year for the Ravens, and We're going to sit back and watch these locker rooms get cleaned out.
Nick Short said maybe Madden can help us now. It's too soon for that. That's messed up, dude. That is messed up.
You need a special code.
David Missler says, can we release a vial of COVID on the Rams team plane otherwise to make sure that it happens?
Like snakes on the plane. Motherfucking snakes.
So Craig says, Scott, I don't care if we win these last 2 games. I want to see the Ravens fight to the bitter end because it's a cultural thing there. And I agree with you. I think we have the ability. We've shown the depth. It's just going to it's going to suck. Jacob Paul chiming in says, yes, it was 24 hours apart that the COVID test has to be done. It looks like some people are really chiming in. Here you go. David Missler, hot take. Cup and OBJ will show off in this game.
Hey, hotter take. Fuck those guys. It's a guy named Van Jefferson.
So Rick, I know I haven't seen you before in here chiming in a whole lot, but Rick chimed in this one. He says, we actually did better than I thought I was going to do in that game, or better than we thought he was going to do in that game. Have to give him props for staying in it as long as they really did. And really that's what we were talking about, right? With Josh Johnson being a serviceable quarterback, in that situation, they were able to put up 21 points. They did have success. Could they have had more success with more of a running game, more scheming, less passing attempts? Yes, I do think that could be that case. So that's kind of where we're going. Scott, who for head coach after Harbs? I don't know. Harbs isn't going anywhere this year. Harbs is not going anywhere next year. He will be here next year. If anything, it'll be Roman going away. And really, I know that Craig, you were sitting there saying Byron Leftwich. Of the names and people that have been out there, I saw one on Twitter today that I actually had me kind of go, I'd be curious because he does have a good take on the game and understands the game a lot. Louis Riddick does a good job at analyzing the game. Now, whether he's head coach material is a different story.
I think he'd be more like a Mayock that goes towards GM.
Yeah, he's looking for GM
office type of thing. I don't think he's a coach. No.
No coach.
But all those different things. So I think we're not in that sense or in that position right now. David Missler, can we get Weddle back out of retirement?
Harb's got his job lucky to be saved because of injuries and COVID.
There's a lot of things that have now. If this season were the same way that it was, with everything that we thought we were going to have at the beginning of the season, I would 100% agree with you, James. We'd be looking at him on the hot seat, but I don't think that's the case right now. We're going to get in later to in our 2-minute warning, a hot seat question on who we think should or shouldn't be fired as far as NFL coaches. So stay tuned for that a little bit later. But again, Liquor Stop Brew of the Week presented, our social media shout out presented by Liquor Stop Brew of the Week. I know that you were drinking it over there. This one is out of Firestone Brewing Company. This is Firestone Walker Brewing Company to be specific. I forget where he told me that these guys are out of. They're out of California. Yeah, they're out of California. This is their Cinnamon Dolce Nitro Stout. It is a stout. It is a nitro, meaning coffee. It is a coffee stout. There are hints of the cinnamon and the caramel in here. 6%, a little low for a stout, honestly.
Actually,
which I think kind of leads it to being heavier on the flavor, the coffee side.
Like it's kind of like a light stout. I don't know. It's not a real thing, but it's kind of what I gather. Almost feels like it's kind of a light stout. It's not too heavy.
If this is your jam, you could probably pound a few of these. Stouts just aren't always my thing. I could sip this. I truly could, especially on a warm, like in front of a warm fire or something in the winter time.
Just to get my taste in my mouth.
Yeah.
Like,
you're over there drinking Broken Skull now, so you're in happy place.
Drink this guy.
You're in happy place.
Oh hell yeah!
It's up there. You can hit that button right there.
I'm afraid to hit buttons. Is
Go
it
ahead.
this one?
It's the blue one.
Give me a hell yeah.
Hell yeah!
There you go. All right. So make sure you head up to Liquor Stop, 1510 Conowingo Road in Bel Air. Tell them Birdland BS sent you. Get your 10% off. All right, it is time for those predictions, and let's go ahead and give a shout out to Fred, even though he's not here. Man went 5-1 last week. Looked like you last week. He took.
I know that kind of sucked because I had a lead and over him anyways, and
you jumped out in front of him and then you lost it. As he goes 5-1, you and I both go 3-3. James goes 4-2, and Ryan goes 3-2.
I just got to pass Ryan. I just got to pass Ryan at this point.
3-3. I'm sorry. Ryan went 2-4. So he didn't do very well.
But he did click.
He did click with the Colts and Chargers game. 3 points he was only off by in that game. So very close game there. Overall on the season, James is still in the lead. He's got a firm grasp on that first place spot at 45-19. We've got coming behind him, myself and Fred, 40-24. We've got Ryan at 39-25, and you at 38-26. So you're almost caught up to Ryan at this point. You were quite a few behind for a little
December
while.
started, and
It wasn't looking good for you. You were making a run. So let's look at this week's games. Obviously, we talked earlier, no Thursday night game. So let's go ahead and start with this Ravens game. As the Rams come into town, again, 11-4, Ravens 8-7, 1 o'clock game, got moved, got flexed. Fred's got this being a 30-24 game in favor of the Rams. So he does have it being a 1-score win for the Rams. And he shows that the Ravens are able to put up some points against this Ram defense, probably using some run game, I would assume here. So I'm going to go opposite of him in this.
You're the only one.
I'm the only one. I'm drinking the purple Kool-Aid this week as I have the Ravens pulling this out 27-24. I think they get back some key pieces that help them. The Tyus Bowser loss today, and again, I made these predictions yesterday. Tyus Bowser loss today does hurt a little bit, but you know what? I still think they can pull it out. I think they're going to find some ways to put pressure on Matt Stafford. And I get the secondary is broken up, but I think they find a way to stay competitive in this game. It's not going to be quite the blowout that we saw with Burrow and the Bengals. So 27-24 in favor of the Rams. Drew, who do you have?
So I'll go Ryan's
Ravens,
score
sorry.
first, just because. So Ryan's got the Rams at 35-20. I have the Rams at 34-21.
You priced this right at him.
Hey, I put mine out first.
Yeah, you did.
Remember, I was the one that kickstarted all the scores
gotcha.
this time around. Look, it probably isn't going to be pretty again. I mean, it's like, to me, it literally is the flip of a coin, and I don't know, it's not going to be a carbon copy of it, but you're either going to get the Bengals game or you're going to get the Packers game, where we thought the Packers were going to steamroll us, and, it came down to that last decision. I don't have it coming down to a close decision, so, to me, 34-21's still, doable and appropriate, because, if they get to do the thing, I don't think they're throwing Stafford out there like they did with Burrow. That's the difference for me.
Maybe.
To bring that argument back up.
All right, James, let's go over to you. What do you got?
Drew, you can hit that button, whatever, the one that says, get off the weed.
I'm still afraid to hit buttons.
Weed.
I don't know what the fuck Scott's been watching the last couple weeks, but there ain't the Kool-Aid is dry in Baltimore.
He's got to try to jump.
It's dry.
He wants to finish second place.
I think the Old Bay's all shaking up down there. It's like all done down there. I have it close to Fred with a one extra score game. I have it 37-24. Get your popcorn ready because it's going to be a show.
Apparently, you got this being just a blowout. All right, casting couch.
All right, make
What do
sure
you got?
write these down.
What do you got, Joe?
Write it down. Hold on.
Write it down. Since we prayed to St. Wing,
I got it.
I'm going 28-17 Ravens.
28-17. Get off the weed.
All right.
I mean, look, the better part of the month, I've been sitting there going well, I went with this team because I wasn't doing it this time around.
Why not? Why not? All right, so let's go to the Sunday night game. We've got the Sunday night 8:20 p.m. game as the Vikings, who are 7-8, head to Green Bay to take on that 12-3 Packers team who has a hold on first place in the NFC right now, but only by a game.
Yeah, Tampa and the Rams coming up behind the Cardinals.
So the Packers in this game, obviously being favored. Drew, so who are you going with the favorite here?
I'm going with the favor, Packers 36-26. You're at this point in the season where it's like the Vikings, if it's close, they'll find a way to fuck it up. Like, it's kind of like the Vikings and Chargers, like that same mold. Like, if it's close, they'll find a way to do something late where it's just throw a dumb pass or it's fourth and long, and instead of throwing it, you're like, oh, we're gonna be funny and sneaking it, or you miss a field goal. Vikings find ways to lose games for me. So, like, a lot of my predictions for the Vikings that have always been the same, like, they're gonna find a way to lose the game. So I no different in this one.
All right, James, what do you got?
I had this game 41-27 after seeing the real GOAT on 2 weeks ago at the bank. Aaron Rodgers is working his way for another MVP, back-to-back MVPs, And him and Adams and whoever he wants to throw to is going to throw to. Their defense sucks, and that's how I have it. So we're going to leave it like that.
All right, what do you got over there?
I'm going Packers 38-30.
Packers 38-30. Write it
Aaron
down.
Rodgers,
I got
baby.
38-30.
He's the man.
All right. So Fred has this a 38-28 Packers win. I've got it being that situation. We've seen some weird, primetime games with some low scores, even out of some teams that we expect to put up some numbers. And I think that happens with the Packers in this game. I think the Packers wind up winning and pulling it out, but it's only because the Vikings find a way to lose this game, to your point. So I've got it being 24-21 Packers. Ryan is the only one on the Vikings train, and he thinks the Vikings are going to do it by one score, but it's one touchdown in the extra point. 35-28 in favor of the Vikings. I cannot explain this away. So Ryan, if they win, Ryan's going to have to come here next week and explain how he saw this coming.
Just try to play catch up.
Yeah, exactly. All right, last game is the Monday night game, 8:15, as this is a division game that does have an impact on us and our ability to get into the playoffs because we hold that last wild card spot right now. We have the Browns 7-8 going into Pittsburgh 7-1. That good old one. The Browns are favored in this game. Drew, do they pull it out?
It's funny you let the guy that's got the lone wolf on this one go first. I don't. I got the Steelers win at 2010 just to make it even more complicated in this division and the AFC how it is. That's another one. It's a division game. Like anything can happen. This could be a high scoring game. It could be a low scoring game. The Browns have had a couple heartbreakers here the last couple weeks.
Yeah.
Or even, you know what I mean? Like even when they're beating the Ravens, it was a close, you know what I mean? Like even their win was a close one. So it's just that stickler for me. Like there's part of me and it's not like I want it to happen, but that's still like to me that Steelers are still going to continue to be a thorn until the end of the season. You know what I mean? Like until the end of this.
They're going to be a thorn in everybody's
Like we
side.
could beat the Rams. Let's just say we could beat the Rams. I'd still say like I would be going into last week. Like I don't know if I could pick the Ravens or the Steelers, that quick. Because it still is like that's still such an organization that like you can't write them off until like the coffin's closed.
Yeah, and that's the thing is
Want to be wrong, but
with the Steelers having that one tie, right? They're not necessarily counted out in this situation.
People forget that sometimes.
The only reason that they are above the Browns is really it comes down to that one tie, right? That because they have a quote better record. You didn't take a loss, so you have the better record in this situation. So that works out for them. But we could ultimately see in this game one of these teams really fall out of contention and keep us in a good spot to potentially do it. Obviously, there's a bunch of different scenarios for the Ravens that the Ravens can get in on this. So we'll kind of see what happens. For me in this game, I look at this. I'm going with the Browns. I think the Browns are able to pull it out. They're getting a lot of their weapons back from their COVID situation, from some of the injuries. You're going to really see them. It's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a game to watch as far as I'm concerned because of the implications and because it's like the Ravens Steelers. It's close games a lot of the times here recently since Baker's come up. He keeps it competitive, right? The old gunslinger in Ben that doesn't have much of the sling anymore and can't really sling it much.
Target game. Yeah, short target game.
Exactly. The over the middle game still works. Versus the high potential that you see out of the Browns at times. So I've got this being 24-21. Again, I'm going with the same score I did for the Packers, but in this game I'm going Browns over the Steelers. So James, what do you got in this game?
Well, someone earlier posted that the Steelers have never lost a Monday night game until this Monday coming up because Big Ben checked out. He checked out against the Chiefs. He looks all beat up. He can barely get his ass off the field. I just had the Browns winning this game 27-19. I think Nick Chubb is going to eat that defense alive, and Baker's going to throw a couple touchdowns and be Baker, he'll be like, this is what I do and all this bullshit. Get ready for his next Progressive commercial. But, Ben's going to be he's going to get a loss at home for his last home game, and then the Ravens will finish him off. So That's
Joe,
all I have to say.
All right, Joe, what you got?
Real quick, I'll do 28-20 Steelers.
28-20 Steelers. Why are you going Steelers here?
Well, he just said it's Big Ben's last home game. I think that's going to play something into it. And I really think the Ravens are going to win this week. So it's going to come down to the Ravens and Steelers the last week of the season because that's what the NFL wants.
All
We're
right.
still not going to get in because Bengals are going to win the division.
Who cares about the Bengals? I don't give a shit about them.
All right, well, we'll see what happens. I saw a lot of people chiming in out there. David Missler, maybe a 10-10 tie.
This guy's been watching too much James.
Yeah, right. James last year, he was doing ties all the time last year.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, all right, we appreciate you guys with all of your picks. Stay tuned for next week. We're going to see. We got 2 more weeks left before we crown our Birdland BS regular season champ as far as this goes. I don't know what the hell we're even giving as a prize at this point. Maybe it's a bottle of bare knuckle.
No.
So make sure you stay tuned as that comes out. All right, guys, it is time for this week's rundown. We don't have Shell and Tell this week, as we talked about Shell and Tell,
Because
guys.
we don't know how to talk about the Terps like those two guys do.
Yeah, those two guys, they're going to have plenty for you. If you didn't watch last week's episode, go back, check out the Shell and Tell version there. They also put out the actual Shell and Tell episode in Inside in Gold and Black with Ahmad Gafir. It was great. If you guys haven't subscribed to these guys, we're not just saying this because, they're our friends and they do this, do the show.
They're legit getting better and better and better.
So just to throw it out there and credit to them, because we know what they've put in to build this. Mm-hmm. Did you guys know they're starting to have some of these incoming classmen are the ones actually reaching out and following them?
Yeah.
Right? Pretty cool to say what they've built. And credit to them as they go into 2022, continuing to grow the Shell and Tell brand. Congratulations to them. Again, they're up at the Pinstripe Bowl in New York. Up there hanging out, having fun. Again, they were at some type of comedy club. I don't know if Fred's going to call or not. We'll see.
I'm guessing not at this point.
I'm guessing not at this point, unless he's calling in for after hours, maybe. It's
if
quite
he calls
possible.
in, too late.
No,
Statute of limitations.
undercover YouTube name.
Yeah, no, be more YouTuber. Be more Tuber's not in there tonight. I haven't seen him.
He's in New York.
But yeah, make sure you go like, follow, subscribe with them on all the social media platforms. You'll be able to find them, and they're also linked with the bio link. You can find them through our website www.birdlandbs.com. You can check them out there. So go check out that Shell and Tell. Sorry that Drew and I aren't that versed. We're versed. We can hold our own when we're talking, but to do a whole segment on our own, we wouldn't do it justice at all.
Yeah,
at all.
What's the point at that
Yeah,
point?
it's not a point.
We
So
don't want to. We want to do it justice. We don't want to be disrespectful to the Shell and Tell segment.
So David Missler says he's got one for us. Everyone else besides the winner has to do a shot of whiskey. Winner. The winner does a keg stand. I like that. Yeah. There you go. James, you're doing a keg stand.
Yeah, if you want to buy $100 worth of
beer.
They have it delivered, David. We're ready.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So let's go through our rundown topics. And the first one I think is honestly going to take us a little bit to get through here because there's going to be some opinions. Now, we've talked about this before when it comes to this. You guys, I know that the chat room can get heated at times on some of these topics. We're keeping it with the facts, keeping it with the thoughts, not keeping this political. This is not a political show at all.
But it's hard not to bring up COVID.
Right. COVID is really becoming a problem in sports again. Tom Pelissero on Twitter, who's a beat writer, wrote for the NFL. He wrote 106 NFL players went on the COVID reserve list yesterday. They all tested positive, including 96 positive tests yesterday.
So
that's a record high.
I added one that we never added, and I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but the parameters of the number were last year they had something like 225 to 250
throughout
total,
the entire season.
And that's when we didn't have vaccines and all that stuff. The virus was
a little bit more prevalent.
A little bit more scary. A little bit then, still a lot unknown. So it was like 250. Players tested positive the whole season. This year, in just December, it's like 410.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy.
You know what I mean? So that's just showing you where we're at and in this day and age right now with COVID just in general, whether it's how severe it gets for these guys. I mean, you've had rages from guys being unvaccinated completely, like a Cole Beasley doing his crap, and then you got guys like Tyreek Hill was completely asymptomatic, did his 5 days of negative testing, he played on Sunday.
Yeah.
So you just got that broad spectrum of things. It's just crazy.
It's crazy to kind of see, but you got a lot of other things going on across sports. It's not just NFL, right? Both the Fenway Bowl between Virginia and SMU and the Military Bowl between Boston College and East Carolina have both been canceled due to COVID outbreaks for teams. We saw that Texas A&M dropped out of the Gator Bowl. I believe they did get another team in there. When you look at some additional other sports,
that Gator Bowl's doomed. That's both teams that were in the Gator Bowl
have gone out. We have for the Atlanta Hawks, NBA, right?
NBA's had a lot of issues.
Yesterday, 10 players on COVID protocols. That's half a squad, right? That's crazy. NHL has announced they're not allowing players to play in the upcoming Olympics in February. There's an argument on that. I know that you want to get into that.
Yeah.
But, there's a lot of different things that are happening. And it's just, before we get into the NHL piece, because that's got a whole different piece to it, right? But before we get into that, overall professional sports, do we see another shutdown here? I know NFL's close to playoffs. NBA, it's kind of mid-season for them. We're starting to hit mid-season. Do we see a shutdown again? I know Adam Silver for NBA said no. Do we see a shutdown with how big these outbreaks are getting with this new variant?
No, and the reason I say no is because we were talking about it too. Even the CDC has changed their guidelines on how you're quarantining, where it used to be 10 days. Now it's 5 days if you're testing negative after the 5 days, say Common Joe. All right, well, go back to work, wear your masks. Go back to work, wear your mask. I mean, I have to wear a mask at work one way or the other. I mean, you got local here in Baltimore County. I know the mask mandates, they pop up. So you have the CDC, and that, I mean, you can do your politics all you want, but let's just go with them as, the end all be all. If they're changing their guidelines a little bit, and obviously you've seen it from the NFL, 1 week it was oh God, here we're moving games back. And that's wait a second. If they're changing their ways, if they're changing their letter of the law, we're changing our letter of law as opposed to if these guys are completely vaccinated and they're not showing symptoms at all and they're testing good before the game, they're starting. I mean, where do you go wrong? I mean, yeah, I have a discussion with my wife who's a nurse. She kind of was I really don't think they should even be playing, not necessarily playing at all, but if you're a guy like Tyreek Hill, yeah, you were allowed to play because you were asymptomatic for 5 days. Even that's still kind of uncomfortable and iffy.
You can still be a potential carrier or whatever, yeah.
Someone like that, she would rather that not really happen. But I think you're at this point where like you said, just go for black and white. Last year, I just said it. You had 400 cases in December. Last year, you had half that in the whole season, and you didn't have vaccinations. Now you have vaccinations. You know this thing a lot better. You have better parameters and measures towards things. I don't see there being a shutdown like they did. If anything, Ryan's brought it up, so I'm just piggybacking on it. If anything, this thing doesn't gets worse, say in February, March, and you're screwed with basketball again or something like that nature. Something like that, sure. But I these professional leagues, I just don't see it happening.
Well, and it's really ramped up, and I think somebody in there said, it's been 3 weeks and it was around playoff time. But think about it. What was a little over 3 weeks ago? Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Right? It was 4 weeks ago. Now you have Christmas, so you could see another spike. There's a lot of different things. Because it
happened last year, too. There was a spike in the population then, too.
I think you see teams make adjustments. Maybe not fully shut down, but I think you see teams make adjustments. I think it's what we're getting
not to keep going on me, but that made me think of, you see teams making adjustments. I saw today the Eagles have separated all their quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So it's
they don't want to have the Ravens situation where you don't have a quarterback.
The Denver situation last year.
Yeah, exactly.
At that point, it's just up to me. Then it become the teams making their own decisions and stuff like that.
So, Joe, when I asked the question, you said no.
I don't think they shut down at all.
Okay.
Honestly.
Do you think there's adjustments? What do you?
The NHL, they had their break in Christmas and they suspended some games. I don't know how many games, maybe 4, 2 or 3 or whatever, which I think was good to get the teams to, get out of that COVID issues. But NFL's not going to stop it. They're filling the stands with 70,000 people. They want the money.
Yeah.
Adam Silver's going to stick him in a bubble. Yeah, he might not get the fans in there, but they're still going to make the money on the TV. So I think NHL's more iffy because they did do the bubble, and I don't think it worked as well for them. And to
Well, their bubble wasn't as strict
I'll
as the
get-
NBA's.
I'll talk a lot more, and we have an NHL
but
coming
I
up. I'll
agree
talk a
that
lot
like
more then.
if they don't go to the Olympics, the NHL players, that's going to really hurt them because I think that's one of the best times to watch hockey.
Yeah, and he's gonna get into that because that's where some of the controversy is. James, what do you think we wind up seeing a shutdown from any sports?
No, but I think the NFL is doing it right. They're mandating the mask throughout the whole where the practice facility and all that. So that's great. We just got to get all back on track. I think we went off a little bit thinking that the vaccine's here and it's been a year and a half. It's all going to clear up, but it's still lingering. You get different variants coming in. So again, we all just have to get used to it. This is something that is probably never going to go away. It's going to be around.
It'll be like the flu. It gets a new version every year.
Yeah, we just got to adjust.
Variants,
Everything's got to be adjust. So that's all I have to say about
Okay.
that.
All right. Go ahead, Drew. Let's get into the NHL side of this. Has a completely different piece that's causing a lot of controversy among players and the league. So kind of get into that.
As anything, the NHL fucks itself up every year or finds a way every few years to do something that just get in their own way. And somehow Bettman's still you talk about like ownership in the NFL, like we shit on Goodell enough, but like he keeps those owners happy. That's what Bettman does because somehow it just seems like every single year it's the same thing with that guy in that league, and they've had a couple shutdowns from lockouts and stuff like that nature. So I digress. But so we had talked about it a little bit, I think, last week where the NHL had took normally for Christmas time, a few days before Christmas, maybe the day after, they kind of have a stoppage. Give the teams a break. Have the
Completely
holiday.
smart, by the way, that they allow these teams. It takes the teams, the
In general,
families
and
into account. Gives them a break.
Quite honestly, if like the NHL, I love the NHL, but I get why someone else, it doesn't have the popularity. The NFL is playing games on Christmas. Next year Christmas will be on a Sunday. You've had the NBA the last chunk of years. They're playing like 4 or 5 NBA games, marquee games on Christmas. So from that standpoint, I think they were already kind of like it's.
But the NHL cares about their players, and they also look at it as they look at that break as the MLB does the All-Star break.
Yeah, I just say like it's a little bit of the reasoning too to me.
Yeah,
but. So they extended that this year because of COVID. You've had some outbreaks, and that league is literally like maybe a few players out of however many. You know what I mean? At 32 teams.
Sorry, Chuck Summers says
I knew he would.
Batman is a third-rate bad guy from a shitty Batman reboot.
Chuck will be with me on that one. So the problem with kind of doing the shutdown with a few games was – and the rumblings were like, well, then they would be not sending players to the Olympics after all. So the controversy comes from and a guy that I fucking hate, Marchand, but he didn't have a problem coming out tweeting about it. Problem was they've talked about, and I think how far they have implemented it yet, or if it's kind of imminent, but they've kind of settled this taxi squad thing with the NHL where like you're having the minors. It's kind of easy to bring up teams, guys from the minors anyway. You don't have like the way their contracts are structured. They come up to the minors as in like some kind of service thing like you do for baseball and stuff like that, where they can go right back down to Hershey.
They can come and go as they want. As
pretty
the teams
much.
Want.
So they had that implemented, but these players like want to go play for their country. It's a fucking badge of honor. Like you would feel like that kind of is like with the NBA too. They play in the Olympics, but that's a huge badge of honor for them. And the problem is, it'd be a different story if they were going to the Olympics anyway. The debate had been in the NHL anyway. Since the last Olympics about them not they actually were like, no, you're not going. And then last year changed their tune.
Right.
So you change your tune, and then now you're kind of using COVID as a crutch. And that's the bullshit of me. You can't sit there and you were fine with it, and then now all of a sudden you're using COVID as a crutch because it's something you didn't want to have happen.
I don't know that you can say that they were fine with it. Their hands were tied, right? When the Players Association basically threatened the strike, over this and a few other things, you kind of had to, like, the owners backed off a little bit. They said, all right, this is not the time or the situation for us to really, push this too hard, because they're already having revenue issues, with some of the TV time and stuff like that. And they're trying to build back up the sport. So I get it. The other side of that, right, is if I go to a game, right, if I'm a season ticket holder, right, for the Caps, do I want to go and not see, not that he would be, do I want to go and not see Alex Ovechkin because he's off in Russia playing over there for his country, which I get.
I mean, I know what you're saying, but like normally, I don't think the NHL, I don't think the NHL would sit there and say, whoever's playing in the Olympics, we're still playing. Like every other year, no COVID aside, that's when they're shut down. That's where I go, where they're kind of using COVID as a crutch, where like if we have this little bit of extended shutdown, we're making up some games, and we had some postponements before the regular shutdown. We're trying to make up games for COVID. You're trying to use COVID as a crutch for your argument that, well, you didn't want the players to go anyway.
And I get that, but from the standpoint, of, okay, they go over there, somebody comes back with it, infects a team, whatever it may be. Maybe you have to quarantine to come back. There are ways around that, so I get that's kind of what you're saying. I'm torn on the whole thing, honestly, because I don't follow NHL that closely, but I follow it close enough that, in those situations, this would be a situation where we're saying, okay, we shut it down. COVID we're canceling these games. We need to make them up somewhere else. And here's where we're going to do it. And that means you're not going to be able to go play over there. And really, you shouldn't be going and playing over there anyway, because there's limits. There's limits on international travel as it is. So what makes them any different on international travel than you or I?
Yeah, I mean, I get that argument too, but it just seems...
It does seem like a crutch.
It seems like a crutch because you were already, you know what I mean, right after the last Olympics.
You follow NHL way more than I do.
It was such a thick argument going into the last Olympics about it. You know what I mean? It's been such an ongoing thing the last several years. It's just fishy a little bit.
Well, if there is a shutdown or if there is something going on, you're going to have plenty to watch like you did last year with the dance, because two things that are coming out. One, I'll talk about one, you'll talk about. We found out this week HBO is going to be releasing Winning Time: The Rise of the Lakers Dynasty. And it's a star-studded cast. John C. Reilly is in it.
Star-studded enough right there.
Which is awesome. But TMZ actually asked Magic Johnson if he was excited about this debut, and he said no. His response was a simple, no, not at all. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm just going to leave it at that. One of the thought processes behind this of why Magic isn't happy is because part of this, yes, is there going to probably be with John Reilly, is there going to be some comedy? Hell yes, there's going to be some comedy.
It's going to shine a lot of negative light on his freelancing ways off the court.
Exactly. And I think you're going to see, it is supposed to be a little bit of a biopic, right? And
it seems like from watching the trailer, I mean, it seems like you're talking about like when Dr. Bus bought the team. So you know what I mean? You're thinking early Magic Johnson. You're not thinking like towards Kobe and all that.
You're thinking that start of the dynasty 80s, and the 80s and what happened with all of that. So there's some thought that maybe there's going to be some shedding of some light on some things, because it is a biopic type situation. It's a type series.
I mean, look, the first line of the trailer, John C. Reilly as Dr. Bus said, "There's two things I love in life: basketball and sex." And right then and there, I'm watching the show.
Right.
The rest of the trailer
that's
just
all it takes for you, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Basketball and sex.
So yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what comes out of this documentary and what we find. But there's another one on Peacock that you
so
found.
Peacock will be a legit documentary docuseries on the Peacock network centered around Joe Montana. So you've had your little man in the arena with Brady there, Fred, your little love fest. Now we get to the real. No, he's not that. He's a really good quarterback.
He's a good quarterback.
So it's centered on Joe Montana. It's called Joe Montana Cool Under Pressure. Used to call him Joe Cool. Go figure. So on January 6th, it'll premiere. You'll have the first two episodes. I don't know how long they are, because I know I would figure it's kind of like Last Dance, where it was like an hour and a half each episode. But
yeah, probably.
One episode might be hour 20, where the later on episodes where the good stuff happens, it could be 2 hours or something like that. It's streaming network, so obviously you're not worried about commercials and all that nonsense.
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be interesting to see. And
Should be
interesting
interesting
to
to
watch.
see. I'm interested. I probably will watch it.
I know we talked about basketball a second ago, but let's kind of go back to it for a quick second. Did y'all see the James Harden flagrant foul against the Lakers?
I really didn't.
You didn't
I
see
saw like
that?
a still
I saw a
image where he was
picture.
punching a guy in
Yeah.
the balls or something.
Yes.
Is that it? Right
That's
there?
it.
Okay.
He literally, and the video, when you watch the video, he's going out and you watch him go, ugh, right to him. Yeah, I know, I'm knocking straight over.
Give him the jab.
Literally, it was like, if he was trying to get around him, he was trying to go through him with this, and he did because he hit him square elbow to the, the wrist to the nuts. Guy dropped. It was bad. Like, this is one of the things that people have been talking about with Harden is that he's not getting more flagrants because he's
Some elbows
this
and
one
stuff
just
like
happened
that.
to be like he hits a guy in the nuts, but he's been taking some hard drives. There was a situation against LeBron where he hooked LeBron's arm and like still tried driving to the basket, and LeBron's sitting there like, I haven't moved my arm. What are you doing, guys? Like to the refs. And it's just crazy. And now it's starting to kind of be called a little bit. But this flagrant was pretty bad. And I wouldn't be surprised if he winds up getting a fine down the road from them because it was very obvious what you were doing. And the guy it wasn't like the guy jumped and you hit him that way. You're out at the 3-point line. You're trying to drive in on him and you wind up hitting him in the
That's
nuts.
like how
It's
everybody's
crazy.
got a birthday, the special celebration.
Yeah, why not, right?
Great. No, I love it.
See the coronavirus one?
That one's a little bit pushing the envelope, but all right.
Hey, whatever. It's still around in 2022. The last thing that we've got for this week.
Do we have to?
We're going to go here again
Come on,
because he's
something
making headlines again. This past week, Skip and Shannon had Jake Paul on their show, and they talked about the fight as well as his future, right? And one of the things that Shannon, I give credit to Shannon for actually calling him out on this. He said, look, you want everybody to take you seriously. Same thing we said. You got to fight somebody that is a boxer, not a former NFL athlete that's been training for the past 6 months, not a guy that was a UFC fighter that's trained in jiu-jitsu.
And past his prime on top of that.
And way past his prime.
And
And you've been training. Apparently Paul has been training for the past 4 years.
I'll give him credit for that. Like, at least, like, it's not like he's going in there and, like, he doesn't look like a trained boxer, but it's still the fact that, like, you're facing exhibition matches. You're going against guys that are not real boxers.
Right. And Paul's response, I'll give him credit because it was very well spoken. He said, look, now it was well spoken, but I think he reached a little bit too far too early. But it was Paul being Paul. He literally says, not you, Paul, if you're still watching. I know we got Jacob Paul that watches the show.
Always throws me
Throws us off. But no, he literally said, look, guys like Ali, Mayweather, they fought nobodies when they were first coming up. The difference Skip and Shannon kind of said
facing,
it.
like, amateur
you were
boxers.
facing amateur boxers,
Amateur
guys.
boxer facing an amateur boxer.
Right, exactly. You're not facing these guys it's exhibition matches, right? But to his credit, he says, "Look, I'm making money off the exhibition fights right now, but I do want to show that I'm serious about this." Right? And he says he called out Canelo Alvarez, saying that within the next 3 years he wants to fight Alvarez. Now Alvarez is 31 right now.
Again, at that point, Canelo has done enough. You know what I mean? Like, enough that in 3 years he could be a shell of himself if he extends himself even that far.
He's 31 right now. Paul is 25.
Yeah.
Right. So a 6-year difference between these guys. In 3 years, you're looking at a 27-year-old Paul that could be, if he's getting some more fights in him, yeah, he could look good. He could be in a prime situation. Alvarez is going to be, potentially on the downcline. However, he did also say that if Tyson wanted to fight him, he would fight Tyson.
He'd die.
I think he would too.
Hey,
That would be awesome. Scott, are you going to fight him?
the guy still got
Jesus
it.
Christ, I'm gonna mute your ass. Jesus Christ. Anyway,
Yeah, I'm
the
over guy.
the world's responding to all this, basically saying,
Over
"Prove
both
it."
of them.
Jorge Masvidal also comes out and says,
Maybe.
if you want to fight all the people that are coming out of the UFC, why don't you come over to the UFC and fight one of them?
Hey, I'd probably give him major props if he stepped in the ring and took on both those Island boys together. Just fucking one-armed them and just he knocked both of them out at the same time.
He'd knock
then I'm like,
them
you know
both
what?
out.
Yeah, this guy's fucking for real. It's all such a
did you
joke
see all that
to
stuff
me.
on the impulsive?
Yeah, somehow, not even seeking it out.
Did you see the guy that was questioning them was released yesterday? I think it was yesterday or the day before.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're
okay.
like, oh, we had to release him.
Pathetic motherfuckers.
Got some kickback. So. boundaries. 2 topics. 30 seconds each. It's time for the 2-minute warning. All right, it is time for the 2-minute warning. I'm going to be going first this time. James is going to be asking the questions. James, whenever you're ready, I got the button.
You got the button. All right. Who's one NFL coach that should be fired and one coach that shouldn't be fired if you think he's going to be?
So the fire to me is easy. It's Matt Nagy. He's head coach since 2018 with the Bears. 4 seasons now. He's 33-30. He's 1.5 games over 500. 2018 best season. 12-4. Lost first games in the playoffs. They made it to the playoffs again in 2020. Lost the first game, and they were 8-8. They sucked. Guy that could be fired but shouldn't be, Matt Rule.
God damn it, you stole both my answers.
All right.
I'll switch it up, though.
Go ahead. I'll let you go.
Joe Judge in New York. And then while you're at it,
Fire Joe Judge?
Yeah, Joe Judge has got to go. Fire Joe Judge and Gettleman. They're both trash. But somehow the Maras, it's supposed to be some respected franchise and have not gotten it right in years. And then it was Rule. So I'm kind of going to stick with Rule because, like, I know he kind of looks stupid. Say, Jay-Z took 7 years, blah, blah. That sounded stupid. But he has been, and it was college, he's known to build something. And when you keep if CMC isn't going to stay healthy, you're screwed.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
All right. Who do you think will win the Pinstripe Bowl, Maryland or Virginia Tech? And how about the CFP, Bama or Cincy?
Pinstripe Bowl, I think momentum is right now on Maryland's side. I think it's going to be a tight game. But I think they've got a lot on their side. The news of some old players coming back is going to be great for them. As far as CFP, as much as I want to see Cincy win, I think you just can't beat Nick Saban and his ability to game plan against the team that he's going against, and he's going to have 3 weeks to do it.
Yeah,
exactly.
So for me, Maryland's winning. I got it as a tight one too, probably like something like 28-20.
Ooh.
And then it's going to be Bama. It's not. To me, it's not even a question.
You want to root for Cincy?
I just want to root for Cincy because of that. The way the playoff system is, I want to see those lesser conference teams. Like if you've gotten to the point Cincinnati has, it'd be one thing to get to the point you had and get your ass kicked, but to be competitive, that's cool enough too.
All right, guys. We appreciate you guys tuning in and sticking around with us. Stay tuned for last call as we get going, and we'll see if any of the guys call in. We got a few little things we can talk about. As always, you can check us out on our website, www.birdlandbs.com. Hey, guys, ring in the new year. Go check out the episode. Like, follow, subscribe, share on all of our social media sites. Get yourself some Birdland BS gear. Treat yourself, right? It's great. We're going to have to treat you with something because you ain't ever coming in here with Birdland BS gear anymore.
I got good clothes. I don't know what you want me to tell.
Make sure you also check us out on bigplay.com. Follow us there. Again, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. Follow us on all those social media pages. We really appreciate you guys each and every year that we've been doing this for 4 years now, as we said before. We really appreciate it. We have fun with this. We've been growing this brand, been growing what we've been doing, and it's all thanks to you guys and the fun that we've been having.
I mean, we even have an unofficial mascot on the couch today.
Yeah, the unofficial mascot is in studio today with Joe Carlozo.
Mascot.
I know a lot of you guys can always, if you don't know where to find us or you don't want to find us in all those places, bio.link/BirdlandBS. You can find the gear. You can find all of our social media pages, our website. You can get your donations in if you want to have any donations for us. We appreciate everything that you guys do for us and listening in. Again, the audio version of the show, any of your podcast apps that you use, we're on there. If we're not, let us know. Make sure you give us a review while you're there so that we can be found when other people are looking for sports podcasts, or especially Baltimore sports podcasts. Thanks for tuning in. As always, for Fred and Ryan up the Pinstripe Bowl, go Terps! For Drew, for James, and for our special guest, Joe, I'm Scott, and we'll see you guys next week.
See ya.
Time for the after party.
It's the last call for alcohol.
I feel like Tom broke.
Whew. Man, that was a good show, guys. Very good show.
Was.
I know it was short with
We
the.
almost had the Deshaun Watson level argument that we had before. This was a lot different though.
Oh god, it's so fun to poke the bear. Oh man, no, it was definitely a good show. I know that some people were chiming in there. Myers back in the NFL soon. I feel, or Urban. I don't think so. After all that shit,
No. He's taking his buyout and gone.
David Missler says Tomlin should not be. So here's what I'm gonna say to that. And I've said it before, and I didn't put him on my list because I feel like of everybody, he's kind of the guy that's the bubble situation. He seems to have lost control of that locker room. Given that it's a lot of youth in that locker room, if you've already lost control, the second guys like Big Ben are gone, you have no respect in the locker room.
And when you if you don't get a good quarterback in there enough, and you're struggling to get 5 or 6 wins, and you're finally having losing seasons.
Yeah,
you start. Yeah,
defensively, maybe what TJ Watt.
I mean, what is it a thing? Like I know they don't. He's the third coach in franchise history,
right?
So
They don't
we
do it
know
very
their
often.
track record. Would you think it'd be a situation where like somehow he just looks in the mirror or has a conversation with his wife in like next month and like
I said
just-
if Big Ben walks away, I could see Tomlin walking
like,
away.
I mean, he could have the feeling like I've done enough. Like if I go away and I don't return, like I probably could still get in the Hall of Fame.
Here's the deal.
With 2 Super Bowl appearances and not having a losing season.
Here's the deal. Tomlin leaves just because of how he is, who he is, and how he talks. He's getting hired somewhere as an analyst.
Yeah, that's the thing too. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If he feels confident in his legacy towards that Hall of Fame credential, he could just be like, I'm gonna go make some more money. Look at what Peyton's doing. Who knows? Someone could give me the same kind of job somewhere and do the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, you see it across the NFL. I mean, not necessarily with head coaches. You see it a lot more with players, right? Olsen and some of the other guys. But look, I mean, he's a guy that to me, he's on the bubble. Right, because it would appear from an outsider's perspective that he's lost control of a young locker room, which is not good. And the 2 voices that he has in there, TJ Watt hurt for part of the year, and Big Ben is a shell of himself, and he said he's done after this year.
And like
there
you've
might
heard,
be a
you've heard
conversation.
and like you've heard it from Ryan Clark, this ain't the same, former Steeler. This ain't the same Steelers like that we're used to, that I was used to, that we were part of. Like you don't have those overwhelming forces anymore. So like you're saying, where like that old head is gone now, on top of everything else going on.
So then the question becomes for Steelers fans, just as it would be, I know that Craig was saying, John Harbaugh. Then who do you bring in that can bring back Steeler football, so to speak, right? Or bring that mentality. I don't know, is whoever the head coach going to be of the Ravens, if John Harbaugh were to be loose, could they have this same play like a Raven mentality, right? Is that a thing? That's a thing from the organizational perspective, but EDC would have to find somebody that's going to fit that.
Yeah.
Like fit, this is how we do things. You are in here. For God's sakes, EDC and John Harbaugh are fucking neighbors. Like, these guys know each other's ins and outs, habits. I'm sure they've driven to work many a times together. Like, it's one of those things that it's different when you have somebody that is a organizational changing head coach and a long-term head coach, like a Harbaugh, like a Tomlin, like another guy that people are saying might be out the door, Pete Carroll.
Oh, he's definitely gone.
He's gone.
Him and Wilson are gone. That organization is going down. And the sad fucking part, not sad part, because I don't care.
They don't even have an owner.
They don't have a first round pick this year.
Nope.
They traded it for a fucking bum. Or it could be in the top 10. So you're looking at like say a top 5 pick, and you don't even get it. So no, I think Carroll's gone. I think he's gonna sit there and say, "I'm pushing 70. I'm fucking gone."
Yeah, David says play like Raven will stick around longer than Harbs. Look, I do think that's the case, but Harbs has instilled, Harbs. Obviously we heard the tiffs back and forth back in 2012 with Ray and all that when he kind of first came on, but I think maybe he didn't fully embrace it back then, but he did continue to embrace it. We've heard it. That's why everybody is giving him credit online and media for that of, okay, yeah, he's instilled this in his players. When he asked them, do you guys want to go for it? that means he's telling them, I trust your judgment. It's, I'm going to take the heat if it doesn't work, but I trust your judgment. If you think we should do this, if you think you're a part of this team, you show that you're a part of this team. So he gives them that ability, and I get it. But it's just something that you have to find the right person. You can't just stick. I know everybody called for Bieniemy, right? But could Bieniemy not be a fit for that play like a Raven mentality? You don't know. We aren't privy to these interviews, these conversations. You have to. It takes, especially when you get these organizations
grass isn't always greener.
Exactly. When it takes some of these organizations that have really established themselves and who they are. The Steelers are, we know who the Steelers are. We know historically who the Ravens have been, and even for the past few years, we know who they are right now. Right? They're a team that doesn't give up right now. That's that play like a Raven mentality. You got to have a head coach that you're willing to come in and embrace that and willing to trust that, hey, yeah, I may not go get you that big name, but I'm EDC and I'm going to go get you some bargain hunters that if you play them, they're going to work out.
Yeah.
Right? So it might work. Go ahead, Joe.
I'm sorry. Can I talk now?
You can talk. You can talk about whatever you want. You're the mascot.
As long as it's not fucking boxing.
No,
go
I'm
ahead.
just kidding. Gosh. People give Harbaugh a lot of flack that they don't like him. But if the man hasn't changed, he would never brought back Tony Jefferson. Because I'm pretty sure he told Jefferson to beat it.
Well, I think Jefferson was an age thing, right? They were trying to get younger. They brought back Jefferson because nobody else wanted him. Nobody else was keeping him. And hell, if I can bring back a guy that knows our system at minimal cost to us, why wouldn't you?
I think it was a good job by them because we don't have anyone else.
Smart by EDC, smart by Harbs.
We don't have anybody else. Keyword.
So, non-sports related, you guys, I know with COVID and everything, kind of don't really go as big as we may have anyway. What do you guys normally do for New Year's Eve? What do you guys have plans for this year? Because literally, I don't even want to leave the house. I want to just drink at home, and I want to just stay up to midnight. I want to give my wife a kiss at 12:01 and 12 and 1 second, and I want to go, all right, time to go to bed.
Pre-COVID, past 3 years, my ass was asleep before 10:30.
So I stay up because it's either it literally is we just sit there and we'll flip between the shows because we do kind of watching the shows, or she's worked the next day and she's asleep at 9 o'clock, and I'm sitting there I guess I'll play some video games until midnight.
That's part of what it is.
For some reason, I don't know what it is. I'll stay up to midnight just because.
That's part of what it's been for us is my wife works retail, so sometimes she's having to go work in the next day, or she just worked that day, so she's had a long day. So it's been crazy to have to deal with that and work through that. So yeah, it's difficult. It's rough. I normally pre 3 years ago we'd try to go out. We would try to go out, and then we actually would leave wherever we were at. We'd usually leave about 11:15, come home, have the ball drop there, and then go, okay, let's go to bed. Because we both worked, weird hours at times. So it is what it is, but it's always
I like
fun.
staying up one way or the other, even if I'm not really doing anything.
James, you always have
what's the grub going on over his house?
Yeah. I was gonna say, what's there's always some meal going on. Do we have a New Year's meal?
We cooked 3 lasagnas and got some penne Alfredo going.
Nah, New Year's is all about steamed shrimp and homemade crab cakes.
Ooh. This one we might have to go over this time. So everybody just comes over, hangs out.
Just the
family.
family. Maybe my mom will stop over, but I don't go all crazy. I did 1 year, had a big old party at my house.
New Year's ain't what it used to be.
Nah, no one.
I think it is when you get older. It's really I don't really I'd rather not go out. I don't really like going out anyway when it's cold weather.
A room full of fucking old farts.
Yeah, we are. But I don't really like going out when it's colder it is.
I never had a thing when I was young to go to New York and stand outside and watch this fucking ball just drop. And you have all these fucking people like sardines, like all crazy.
They're limited it this year to 10,000.
Yeah, they've still been doing it
worse than last year.
You got to buy
probably.
a ticket, but every year I've been growing, I've never said, hey, you know what? I want to go up to Times
Never.
Square.
God, you saw how bundled I was up for the Ravens game. I'm not going to goddamn
Kaylee,
Eagles.
we just admitted it. Yes, we know we sound old. All right, we got it, and that's without Fred and Ryan here. All right, so it's even worse. David says, James, you need to cater my wedding, and he also says we need to stay up late and have a Birdland BS midnight countdown show.
It'll be a fun one year.
We'll have to maybe next year we'll have to set that up.
For Christ's sake, that goddamn draft lasted about till midnight.
I don't know.
This year, so we could pull it off.
I don't know if you ever done this, but I never heard this. I do the grape thing.
Like step on grapes?
Craig Zero, if you're still in,
Tell us.
what is the grape thing?
Yeah, what is the grape thing? I'm not sure. Just maybe does grape juice instead of champagne or something or wine.
That's probably
Gotta get a bottle
we're probably
maybe.
overthinking it.
Kaylee said she thinks Ryan and Fred would agree though. So, it's always interesting to kind of go through and do. So let's get your two takes real quick on this. So the first question from the 2-minute warning: NFL coach, who should be fired and who may be on the hot seat and shouldn't be? James, let's go to you.
Easy. John Harbaugh, keep it in house. Get rid of his ass. The new thing is every 10 years you should go look for a new job.
Sparkling grape juice.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Craig Zero.
Oh, that was from David. I think that's what he's talking about. I don't know.
All right, Dave. Thank
Champagne.
you. But it's time to go. Like, I'm just tired of all his press conference after a game, and he's like looks at you like, yeah, like no, I don't want that. I don't want a head coach that goes up to his players like, hey guys, what do you think? We should do this play? Well, who's running the team? Back in the day, you had a head coach, and the head coach ran the team, and people follow. If they didn't follow, you walk out the door. Like, I think his boat has sailed, and he forgot to get on it, and now his U-boat is going to take him from behind. He is so lucky that COVID and injuries happened this year, or he would definitely be gone. Everybody was all
I don't
for
agree
Super
with that
Bowl.
because the team would be better.
Huh?
Yeah, they
The team would be way better.
Hold on. To his defense,
No.
if the
We
team
don't know that, dude.
if the team ended the same way that it is now with the record that it is, with all the weapons that we have, then yes. But the thing is with all that stuff, I don't think we're in the same situation.
Yeah.
I think we're probably right now. We're probably looking at 11-6.
Fuck no, dude.
Without all
Get
the
the fuck
injuries,
out of here.
Come
No.
on,
With all the
man.
injuries,
Bullshit.
With
You guys
Dobbins
all-
and
you guys
Edwards
all-
playing,
you drink
Dobbins
crap.
Edwards playing, Peters on the
guys-
defense, and everyone was
So
no
you're telling me
injury.
you don't think
Get
we
the
win
fuck
any more?
out of here.
No,
You don't go 14-2 with a kind of the same team and have win
they
the goddamn
found out
division last year and all of a sudden suck.
Lamar's not your franchise
You're just
quarterback.
pushing buttons at
Lamar's
that
not your
point.
franchise
Hold on,
quarterback.
hold on a second. Let me ask him a question. Let me ask him a question.
Stupid.
James,
Yeah.
do you truly think that if we did not have all the injuries, if we had Gus Edwards,
He thought we
J.K.
would still
Dobbins,
going 9-8.
Marcus Peters, you think we still have the same exact record right now?
Because what offensive line are you smoking?
You
What
have a
offensive
better
line?
run game
What?
at that
Again,
point. You have
injuries.
your defense is able to handle with two
Stanley,
of the
that's
best in
all
the league.
on your offense. You're relying on you guys are on the weed. You have so much fucking Kool-Aid up your ass. It's,
It's
not even
not
funny.
Kool-Aid. How do you go
There's no
14-2?
offensive line.
How do you win
We
3
had no
straight
offense.
divisions and then all of a sudden say it ain't nothing about injuries just because you hate Harbaugh and you have a stick up your ass to hate Harbaugh no
It's
matter
not Harbaugh.
what?
It's the head coach.
No,
it's
it
the
is.
offensive
You're just
coordinator.
pushing a button like he did earlier with
I
me.
can't-
You're
I can't
pushing a
wait.
button.
You guys
You
are
do this
smoking
all
too.
the time.
I love
Kool-Aid up your
Lamar. I love
ass.
Lamar.
Who do you fucking hire? I have to get angry because we were doing this the
Lamar
other
is
day.
not
I have to
a
get angry.
franchise
No.
quarterback. He is not a franchise
You've
quarterback.
never answered me.
Never.
You've never answered me.
What?
Who do you bring in? If you fire Harbaugh on the off season, who do you want them to fucking hire?
I don't give a fuck.
Exactly. So what's your fucking
Someone that
answer?
coaches a team, not rely on
so
your
stupid.
He had no coaching knowledge at all.
Then who do you hire?
Someone that knows how to coach offense
He
and
came
defense.
from nowhere.
That's
No
why
one
he has the
expected him
coordinators.
to-
He is
and he won a
nobody.
Super Bowl.
All right.
Oh my God. I'm getting tired of it.
Ray Lewis won the Super
I'm
Bowl.
getting tired
Ray
of
Lewis
it.
won the Super
I'm
Bowl.
getting tired of
Yo,
it because who do you bring in? I keep seeing this
I
shit.
don't
so many
care.
times.
I'm ready for a change. I don't care.
So do you bring in a change and then you suck?
We don't know that. We just speculation. Just
But
like
we don't know that Harbaugh could come in next year and go
Harbaugh sucks.
undefeated.
Harbaugh
You
sucks.
just don't like him. It doesn't make sense to me if you don't have a backup plan. You can't sit there as fans
Yes,
and
Dave.
think they
I
need
don't
to fire
like him.
Harbaugh.
I just think he's not a franchise quarterback. He is amazing. He
You
makes
shit
you
on
like,
him for
get up
having the
on your.
best kicker in the league.
No, I don't. We don't
You wanna
use
trade him
them.
for 2 first-round picks.
We don't use them.
We don't use them.
Hey,
Except for when they kick a 66-yard field goal to win a
Yeah,
fucking
to
game.
try to win the game because our offense can't score. So
Take
you have
the
to
field
rely on
goal.
your field goal. So if we traded Tucker for good offensive lineman, I'm fine.
I've been
I'm
hearing
fine.
it for so long.
All right.
Yeah.
Fire
All right,
this guy,
that's-
fire that guy, but you don't have a plan.
All right, enough with the bell. Yeah. No. So, yeah, look, I get what you're saying.
Oh, I can't wait till next year. I fucking can't wait till next year.
I get.
Oh, we can't either because when
number
we're winning
one-
again and we're rubbing it in your
number one-
face, it's gonna
hey,
come back.
number one,
There's receipts.
If this team, if all of the stuff came back, if like all of the offensive players and defensive players that were injured this year or on COVID for extended periods of time, if all of those guys are here and we shit the bed, I agree with you, James. But the thing is, I don't think we shit the bed.
Yeah, because look, the defense is not going to be there next year. It's going to be all re-ranked. All of them are basically like free agents next year.
Yeah, Marlon's a free agent. Peter's a free agent.
Everybody's gone on defense.
Chuck Clark's a free agent.
Everybody-
Patrick Queen's a free
No,
agent.
Marlon
Tyus
just
Powell's
signed
a
a
free
deal.
agent.
No, they're all free agent. The defense is
Matt
basically
BK's
gone.
a free agent. Broderick Washington's a free agent. So you're losing Calais, old.
Yep.
You're losing Brandon Williams, old. You're losing Jimmy Smith, old.
Yep.
You're
Jimmy Smith
losing
hasn't
you're
played
losing
this
Deshaun
year.
Elliott because he's probably gone injured.
Yep.
Might as well be fucking old.
Young.
Tavon Young injured. Might as well be gone.
Yep. It's gonna be.
All right.
East,
This has been a great after hours.
Dude. This year's draft is gonna be. It's gonna be great.
Now you know how I feel.
Because
East,
Do I get to
you know
answer my
who he
question
is?
now?
And I've been thinking this. I haven't said it. Do you listen enough to the afternoon of the fan?
I don't.
Jason
work from home.
Locafora
they're awful, dude.
must hate the Ravens.
He's a turd.
Because he wants, I mean, it's always so negative, but you know Jason Locafora reminds me of?
James.
Hey, I just keep it
Like,
real.
you just
dude.
wish
Like,
for your team to suck. It doesn't make
I
sense
don't want
to
to
me.
suck. I'm just saying, like,
But you
Lamar.
wish for it.
Lamar's that
You
guy that's
openly
so
wish for it.
special on the field, but he's not a thrower. Anybody can
God.
fucking throw the ball, dude. You have these people that were
How did they beat the
quarterbacks.
Kansas
Hold
City
on.
Chiefs?
They became one time.
How'd they
That's
beat
just
the
be
Colts?
consistent.
How they beat the
All right,
Indianapolis
all right,
Colts?
all right. I'm gonna put a kibosh on it. I'm gonna be daddy for a second since he ain't here. Kibosh on it. Look, I agree with you on a lot of what you're saying.
I would love to
Disagree
go
with you on a lot of what you're
18-0.
saying.
I would love our team to go 18.
I don't
but
think you do.
realistic-
I honestly think
you want us to have four wins.
Stop. I honestly think, James, you're delusional if you think this team is still ending this season 8-9, whatever it winds up being.
No, they make
If-
the playoffs, but lose in the first round. That's what our team is set up to do.
Okay, but my whole point is you sat here just a minute ago and you said if we had J.K., Gus, Marcus Peters, fully healthy for the entire year, Marlon Humphrey, if we didn't have all these issues, you said you still thought we'd be 8-8 or 8-7 right now. I 1000% disagree with you. I think you're delusional if you think that. If you truly
You
think
guys
that,
are delusional.
you're delusional.
Humphrey's a great fucking corner. He is not. He has shown
Okay.
it this year. He's not.
I told you he doesn't want us to have good. He
No.
doesn't want us to be good.
No,
If you
I
really
do.
think- if
I
you
just
really-
don't
I really
think
don't
he's
think
like
you
top
do.
5
All right.
fucking corners.
I really think you want us to suck.
No, I don't.
It's not how it comes off.
It's
Yeah.
all.
All right, guys. We appreciate everybody tuning in. Entertaining after hours. We'll see you guys
It
next
happened
week.
because Daddy wasn't here.
We'll see you guys next week with a full gamut as Ryan.
We probably wouldn't even had it after hours if Fred was here.
Ryan and Fred will be back next week, and we'll see you guys.